Chapter 4103. This scene was too shocking. A group of terrifying giant zombie beasts suddenly appeared in the void without any warning. As soon as they arrived, they roared and roared. It was really too frightening. The huge motley crew was scared silly at first. After a short moment of silence, a tide of shocked cries rang out. "Oh my God, what did I just see? Is this still the third universe of the human race? The omnipresent universe zombies. Their auras are so powerful and terrifying. Zombies! Universe zombies. Oh my God, are we being surrounded? Run!" Along with these horrified exclamations, the miscellaneous troops in the periphery of the battle circle were in complete chaos. Especially the border area closest to the universe zombies that had just arrived, it was a complete mess. However, this was obviously not the worst. Immediately after, before anyone could react, a new unforeseen event occurred. Lee. Far in front of the outer circle, among the hundreds of thousands of universe zombies that had rushed in from the outer circle, hundreds of stronghold zombies that had just transformed into their giant zombie bodies from the damaged merchant ships all raised their heads and roared. Immediately after that, a hair-raising scene appeared. These hundreds of stronghold zombies that could transform into a huge stronghold, but now they had transformed into their giant beasts. Not only did they not directly rush into the outer circle of starships to wreak havoc, they instead began to devour each other, killing each other. Such a scene was too shocking. It was simply shocking. The hundreds of stronghold zombies all had Sector Lord level cultivation, and the direction of their evolution was special. They were all mutated metal types. Right now, their bodies looked like giant beasts, and had a metallic luster. Obviously, they were extremely tough. It made people shudder. But right now, facing such a crazy devouring each other, their bodies were like paper. Often, they would open their mouths and tear off large chunks of flesh from their companions. Even when they chewed, there was an ear-piercing sound of metal rubbing against each other. This scene was strange, it made people scratch their heads. Hundreds of Sector Lord-level giant zombie beasts. This was definitely a very powerful force. If they were to join the battle, it would definitely be a catastrophe. But now, they were devouring each other and killing each other. No one knew what was going on, but they all had a bad feeling in their hearts. Something was amiss, and everyone knew this. Soon, the results were out. In less than a minute, the 100 Sector Lord zombie beasts had been devoured by each other, leaving only 60 to 70 of them, losing 2/3 of them. Unfortunately, the remaining 2/3 of the giant zombie beasts were all at the initial universe grade from the Sector Lord level. However, this wasn't the end, as the 60 to 70 universe grade zombie beasts didn't stop. Instead, they continued to devour each other. Moreover, as the number of zombie beasts decreased, the remaining survivors emitted stronger and stronger auras. Half a minute later, there were only 30 or so zombie beasts left. However, the auras in their bodies had reached the late-stage universe grade. In less than half a minute, only 15 of them were left. However, the surviving ones had late-stage universe grade auras. When there were only 8 zombie beasts left in this area, the auras in their bodies had broken through to the immortal grade. Finally, in just a dozen breaths, the 8 zombie beasts had turned into 4 fourth-level immortal grade existences. In the blink of an eye, they had entered the mid-stage of the immortal grade. Even the cultivation of the elephant fox marten, gong huaji, and long shantang were only at this level. All of this took a long time to describe, but in fact, it happened in a short 3 minutes. When everyone finally came back to their senses and realized what had happened, there were only 4 of the hundreds of huge zombie beasts left. Their cultivation strength had actually reached the level of an elephant fox. The elephant fox marten and the other 2 were in a stalemate. Even the 4 immortal grade old monsters guarding the Sky River Star couldn't help but exclaim in shock when they saw such a terrifying scene. Goblet cultivation. It's actually the goblet cultivation. This kind of creature is too scary. It actually has such a terrifying effect when devouring each other. It's even more ferocious and overbearing than the goblet cultivation. In the blink of an eye, more than 100 Sector Lords have turned into 4 mid-stage immortal grade old monsters. How are we supposed to live? Look, those 4 immortal grade zombie beasts seem to want to continue devouring each other. Are they still not satisfied after reaching the mid-stage of the immortal grade? Do they have to make 2 late-stage immortal grade beasts or 1 peak immortal grade beasts? F***CK. Stop them. Stop them immediately. Even old Ghost Mosquito Butcher was shocked when he saw the 4 mid-stage immortal-grade beasts in the distance. They seemed to want to continue devouring each other. This kind of method was not only ferocious but also too shocking. A mid-stage immortal-grade old monster should be able to deal with more than 100 Sector Lord zombie beasts with some effort. However, after devouring each other, the 4 mid-stage immortal-grade zombie beasts had turned into 4 mid-stage immortal-grade beasts. Under such circumstances, a mid-stage immortal-grade old monster would only be tortured if he rushed over. It was simply unscientific that such a terrifying change could happen after devouring each other. All of this was obviously related to some kind of evolved bloodline in these zombie beasts. It was too terrifying. According to this, as long as they could create enough zombie beasts, wouldn't they be able to create marquee-level immortals in a short time through this kind of ferocious devouring each other? Upon realizing this, even Xianxia couldn't help but show a look of horror on his face. No matter what, all the zombie beasts with the goblet cultivation bloodline had to be killed. If such a terrifying evolved bloodline wasn't killed, it would definitely cause endless trouble in the future. Boy, it should be enough for one person to stay here with you. The other two, follow me. We'll deal with the situation over there first. It was also at this moment that old Ghost Mosquito Butcher suddenly let out an explosive shout. Before he finished speaking, his figure had already disappeared. He had actually used teleportation to charge towards the periphery of the battlefield. Then, Long Shantang and Gong Huaji also disappeared and followed him. Compared to the army of zombies that had already been surrounded, the army of zombies on the other side of the battlefield was obviously more dangerous, especially the 4 zombie behemoths that had already reached the middle stage of the sempiternal realm. If they were allowed to continue fighting each other, it would definitely be a disaster. Chapter 4104. Along with the departure of Wen Tu, Gong Huaji, and Long Shantang, the situation of the inner battlefield around Sky River Planet instantly changed greatly. Disregarding the hundreds of millions of zombie slaves and the hundreds of thousands of black hole zombie elite soldiers, there were more than 5,000 Universe Realm zombie generals here. Besides that, there were over 50 Region Lord Realm zombie commanders. Of course, there was a final boss, the zombie emperor, Tuoba Linfeng. Even though his cultivation was only at the initial stage of the sempiternal realm, he possessed the heavenly devil physique and the formidable bloodline of the first-generation zombie progenitor. Originally, there were 4 Eternal Realm experts here, so there was naturally no problem at all when facing all of this. They simply didn't feel any pressure at all, and they even had the ability to crush the enemy. But now the 3 Eternal Realm experts had left, and only Xianxia and the Elephantine Mink remained here. Even though there were still 10 million victorious return battleships, half of them were responsible for the encirclement and couldn't be rashly thrown into disorder. The other half were basically dealing with the 100 million corpse slaves and the hundreds of thousands of black hole realm zombies. Elite troops. In other words, the remaining 5,000 plus Universe Realm zombie generals, 40 plus Region Lord Realm zombie commanders, and the initial stage Sempiternal Realm zombie emperor could only be dealt with by the Elephantine Mink and Xianxia. Xianxia was obviously not suitable to deal with the former. Even though he had many abilities, the battlefield was too chaotic right now. Both sides were mixed together, so it wasn't suitable for him to utilize the Battle of the Stars. On the other hand, Tuoba Linfeng was a bastard that he'd unintentionally created, so Xianxia still felt that he had the responsibility to end Tuoba Linfeng's existence. I'll leave those zombie generals and zombie commanders for you to deal with. Make sure that not a single one escapes, and kill as many as you can under the precondition that Xianxia didn't hold back when facing the Elephantine Mink, and he directly spoke in a commanding tone. As he spoke, his gaze had already shot towards Tuoba Linfeng, who was at the other side of the battlefield, and a wisp of a cold smile appeared on the corners of his mouth. As for that zombie leader, just leave it to me. He won't be able to escape. Right at this moment, Tuoba Linfeng's provocative gaze looked over here. He was also looking forward to this battle. This guy was quite arrogant. He smiled faintly and hooked his finger at Xianxia. Then, he turned his head and looked to the side. He raised his head and let out a fierce whistle, as if he was demonstrating his power. Screech! As he howled, he flipped his right hand, and an incomparably sinister black demonic blade appeared in his hand. Zhang! Following a clanging sound that was filled with endless joy and ruthlessness, the demonic blade slashed out with a loud bang. The blade, which was originally only about 10 feet long, suddenly grew in size. In the blink of an eye, it was already 10,000 feet long. It was like a heavenly blade, and it was filled with ferocious gaps as it slashed forward. Boom! In an instant, the heavenly devil blade crossed the endless void and slashed the hull of a large fortress. A loud noise shook the sky, but the fortress did not explode. Instead, inside the ship, there was a tide of horrified screams, but after half a breath, everything stopped in an instant. The sinister demonic blade gushed out endless demonic aura. It spread out in an instant like the thickest black fog, completely shrouding the entire fortress. This large fortress with a diameter of 100,000 meters, and the dozens of fortresses around it, were completely invisible at the same time. Moreover, while the hull was wrapped in the black fog-like demonic aura, there was a screeching sound of metal friction coming from inside. It was extremely horrifying. However, in just a short span of time, everything returned to silence. The dozens of starry sky fortresses completely disappeared. In the void, the demonic baleful chi drifted like a black fog, but the figure of the great fortress could not be seen. These large fortresses that were enveloped by the heavenly devil blade's black heavenly devil baleful chi and began to corrode and devour them seemed to have been completely devoured. When the evil black heavenly devil baleful mist once again entered the heavenly devil blade's body, the void where the dozens of fortresses were originally located was already empty. An incomparably ferocious black demonic blade lay across the void. With a whoosh, it returned to Tuoba Linfeng's hand. The black fog-like demonic aura of the demonic aura surged, shrouding his body, exuding endless demonic aura. Middle stage immortal realm? What a wonderful feeling! With the return of the demonic blade, the black fog-like demonic aura of the demonic aura that surged endlessly around it rushed into Tuoba Linfeng's body. This was the energy feedback. When the black fog-like demonic aura of the demonic aura gushed out of his body again, it had completed some kind of refining and completely turned into Tuoba Linfeng's own power. It made his cultivation realm break through from the early stage of the immortal realm to the middle stage of the immortal realm. Although this kind of breakthrough could not be achieved only because the dozens of starry sky fortresses and a large number of flesh and blood lives in them were devoured. It must be that Tuoba Linfeng had almost accumulated enough. The harvest just now was just a coincidence, and it just happened to make up for the last bit of demonic aura of the demonic aura needed for the breakthrough. However, this scene was still too shocking. Not only did Long Shantong's eyelids twitch, but even Yi Xian gasped when he saw this. Then, even more intense killing intent burst out from his eyes. This guy's strength is too fast. It's simply outrageous. Today, I must kill him no matter what. Otherwise, there will be endless troubles. Screech! Don't you want to kill me? Come on, I'll swallow all of you. Leave no one behind. Jia jia jia. Tuoba Linfeng's cultivation realm had suddenly broken through to the middle stage of the immortal realm. Now, his battle strength had greatly increased. He was ecstatic. After saying this, he raised his head and let out a roar. Then, his body shook, and his original human form instantly changed into an almost illusory and ferocious heavenly demon. This ferocious heavenly demon's body was as big as 10,000 feet. Its whole body was like a black fog. In the blink of an eye, it drifted away, rushed into the encirclement, and shrouded one of the fortresses. It was going to start a crazier plundering and devouring. Clearly, this heavenly demon wanted to use this crazily devouring to break through to the middle stage of the immortal realm, the peak of the immortal realm, or even the marquee immortal realm. If this was really the case, no matter what, he would not be able to survive today. Boom! Rumble. The sound of explosions and miserable howls resounded in this corner of the void. Some of the battleships were firing, but the battleships were retreating. Obviously, the commanders in the battleships were extremely afraid and did not dare to let this ferocious heavenly demon get close to them. Seeing this, Yi Xian finally made his move. He could not sit still and watch Tuoba Linfeng devour his troops in front of him as if they were resources to strengthen himself. Heavenly Demon Blade? I didn't expect it to fall into your hands after escaping from the back of the giant void tortoise. This is good. I have obtained the inheritance of the giant tortoise. It is my duty to suppress this heavenly demon blade. To you and me, this battle is like fate. It's time. Chapter 4105. The demonic blade was a primordial treasure. It belonged to the supreme-level heavenly demon from the opposing camp in the primordial era. In the primordial war, the primordial supreme heavenly demon left this blade on the back of the void giant tortoise, a supreme-level powerhouse on his side, in a sneak attack. Moreover, The heavenly demon seemed to have had a fierce battle with the void giant tortoise. No one knew whether he was dead or alive, but the void giant tortoise was severely injured. Perhaps the celestial demon had used some special method in that battle, resulting in the celestial demon blade remaining on the back of the spatial colossal tortoise in the long years that followed, as if it was a seal that suppressed the tortoise. However, the void giant tortoise was still a supreme-level existence. Even if it was severely injured, even if the heavenly demon had used some other unknown means, even if the demonic blade had been left on its back and had never been forced out, however, the void giant tortoise did not die because of this. Although the void giant tortoise's recovery was delayed because of the demonic blade, and it was in a bad state due to its serious injuries, the demonic blade, which was originally a primordial treasure, had actually been damaged in such a long time of stalemate. Even when it was in the hands of Tuoba Linfeng not long ago, the demonic blade had recovered slightly because of the repeated devouring and stripping. However, it was still far from being fully recovered. This could be seen from the gaps that covered its ferocious blade. After being refined by Yi Xian several times, the withered demon blade was now a starry sky treasure. The magic treasures of the primordial era were different from the magic treasures refined in the current era. In the primordial era, the most powerful were the primordial treasures, and the second most powerful were the primordial treasures. Of course, there was also the primordial treasures of the primordial era, such as the Shunnong Cauldron and the Netherworld Cauldron. This level of existence was rare even among the primordial treasures. In the current era, the most powerful were the starry sky treasures, and the second most powerful were the primordial treasures. Basically, the most powerful starry sky treasures of the current era were at most on par with the second most powerful primordial treasures of the primordial era. After all, one was refined in the current era, while the other had existed since the distant primordial era. The former lacked the accumulation of time, while the latter had the baptism of a long period of time. It was normal for contemporary treasures to be one grade lower than the desolate era treasures of the same grade. In other words, if the withered demon blade that Yi Xian refined in his hands was compared to the sky demon blade that was passed down from the primordial era into Tuoba Linfeng's hands, the power of the two was roughly equal. It could be said that the battle between Tuoba Linfeng and Yi Xian was a fated battle between the two of them, as well as a battle between the withered demon blade and the heavenly demon blade, the two supreme fierce blades that belonged to the current era and the primordial era. At this moment, following Tuoba Linfeng's provocative actions, destroying dozens of starry sky fortresses in the blink of an eye, Yi Xian was enraged. With a flip of his hand, the withered demon blood blade was already in his hand. Screech! With a sneer, Tuoba Linfeng suddenly waved his right hand. The sky demon blade that was originally in his right hand instantly shot out, and a ferocious roar filled with endless ferocity rang out. In the next moment, from the heavenly devil blade, a huge blade spirit roared out. It was pitch black all over and stood on its hind legs. However, its body looked like that of a bull. There were two horns on its huge head and a pair of sharp black bone wings on its back. Behind its back was a pair of sharp black bone wings that glowed with a cold light. An extraterrestrial demonic beast. This extraterrestrial demonic beast was the ferocious spirit of the sky demon blade. In the past, it was killed by the sky demon, and its ferocious spirit was sealed in the sky demon blade. It had existed for an unknown number of years. A ferocious aura gushed out from its body, turning into a black sky demon evil chi that enveloped its body as if it was solid. At this moment, this sky demon ferocious spirit that was refined from the extraterrestrial demonic beast's ferocious spirit appeared above the blade of the sky demon blade. It shot out at a shocking speed. Seeing this scene, Yi Xian was calm and fearless. The corner of his mouth twitched, and there seemed to be a scornful light bursting out from his eyes. You want to compete with Yi Xian's battle weapon blade spirit? Come on. With a cold smile. His figure did not rush up. Like Tuoba Linfeng, he still stood there. The two seemed to have reached some kind of tacit understanding. In this battle, they would compete with the battle weapon first. Before he finished speaking, Yi Xian suddenly flipped his right hand. The withered demon blood blade that had been trembling violently in his hand for a long time, instantly rushed out like a monkey and shot out. Screech! As it rushed out, a ferocious roar rang out. Because of its extreme speed, the withered demon blood blade had turned into a blood-black light. Above the blade spirit, the withered demon also appeared. This was clearly an outerium ferocious devil that he'd never seen before. It similarly stood on two legs, and its entire body was covered in fine blood-green scales. There was even a long tail behind its thighs that was streamlined and very thick, and the numerous barbed spikes on it looked extremely shocking. As for its head, it looked like a wolf or tiger. It had a pair of ferocious blood-red fangs. There was a single horn on its head that was as red as blood. Although there were no wings on its back, it was covered with sharp bone spurs that were slightly curved. It made people feel cold just by looking at it. The two extraterrestrial beasts were both in the state of energy. Moreover, they clearly did not belong to this world. At least, they had never been seen in the three main starry skies of this world. Even the indigenous ferocious beasts that Xianxia brought out from the source of all evil starfield, and the caged ferocious beasts that had now arrived in the first universe's demon territory, there was absolutely no existence of the same kind. Just by looking at their appearance, it was already shocking enough. They were even more terrifying than ferocious beasts. They could definitely be called extraterrestrial demons. The speed of these two extraterrestrial demons was very fast. In the blink of an eye, they had crossed the distance of 1,000,000 li between Yixian and Tuoba Linfeng. With continuous rumbling sounds, they were engaged in close combat in the blink of an eye. On both sides of the battlefield, Yixian and Tuoba Linfeng both stopped. They were not in a hurry to participate in the battle. This battle belonged to the two supreme ferocious blades. From the beginning, it had risen to the height of a battle between blade spirits. It was extremely dangerous, but it was also a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. This was because blade spirits were existences that could strengthen themselves by devouring each other, achieving the goal of evolution and transformation. No matter if it was Yixian or Tuoba Linfeng, they both hoped that the blade spirit within their battle weapons would be able to win this battle. If the withered demon were to win this battle, then Yixian's withered demon bloodblades might would greatly increase. If the heavenly demonic beast won and devoured the withered demon, then the heavenly demonic blade in Tuoba Linfeng's hand that had yet to be fully repaired would most likely be restored by a large portion. When that time comes, the power of the blade would definitely skyrocket. Roar! Screech! Roars and howls shook the heavens. As the battle between the two blade spirits escalated, the space of several 100,000 li in the central region was shrouded by the black demonic qi and the dark red withered demon blood qi. Even Yixian and Tuoba Linfeng could not see the details of the battle. Chapter 4106. Roar! Screech! An earth-shattering roar rang out. The black demonic qi that had originally enveloped hundreds of thousands of miles of space in the central territory suddenly went berserk. Then, it quickly condensed inwards. In the blink of an eye, only the dark red demonic qi of the withered demonic qi that enveloped this space was left. But because of the existence of the withered demonic aura, everything in the central territory battlefield could not be seen clearly. It was impossible to know what was happening inside. At this moment, whether it was Yixian or Tuoba Linfeng, their hearts were in their throats. They were quite nervous. Because they did not know what the sudden disappearance of the black demonic aura of the withered demonic aura meant. Did it mean that the demonic beast was defeated or that the withered demonic aura was devoured? In the midst of the slight uneasiness, the final result quickly appeared. Screech! Another screech sounded. This time, in the central territory battlefield void, the dark red demonic aura of the withered demonic aura that covered hundreds of thousands of miles began to condense inwards rapidly. The scene in the void was instantly revealed. The two demonic beasts appeared in the sight of Yixian and Tuoba Linfeng almost at the same time. The only difference was that the withered demonic beast with a single horn was still standing in the void. Although its body was full of hideous wounds, its aura was still strong and fierce. On the other hand, the demonic beast had already lost its breath. Its huge body was torn into two halves. It was held by the withered demonic beast in its left and right hands. The withered demonic beast was stuffed into its ferocious bloody mouth. After all, it was not a real body of flesh and blood. It was a blade spirit that existed in the form of energy. Therefore, although the demonic beast's body looked like it was 10,000 feet tall, it was completely devoured by the withered demonic beast in an instant. Not even a single black hair was left. Shio! At this moment, the demonic blade that had been hovering in the sky above the battlefield of the two demonic beasts also shot towards the withered demonic beast at the same moment the demonic beast was devoured. It was directly swallowed into the withered demonic beast's stomach and disappeared. All of this happened too quickly. Tuoba Linfeng, who was standing 1,000,000 miles away, didn't even have time to react. The heavenly demon blade, which he regarded as a supreme ominous weapon, was no longer seen. Such a scene made Tuoba Linfeng's body tremble violently. His expression changed. His eyes were filled with resentment as he stared at the withered demonic blade spirit in the void. Evil beast, How dare you swallow this emperor's weapon? Can you digest it? This kind of result was unacceptable to Tuoba Linfeng. In a fit of anger, he roared on the spot, and with a flash of his figure, he shot towards the battlefield in the central territory. As he roared, a greedy glint flashed across his eyes. He actually wanted to personally take action to suppress the withered demon blade and seize Yi Xian's withered demon bloodblade. Obviously, this guy was greedy. Seeing that Yi Xian's withered demonic blade could even swallow the ancient treasure, the demonic blade, he wanted to shamelessly steal it while Yi Xian was unprepared. Your opponent is this Yi. You can't fight, so you want to steal it. Don't you think it's a bit embarrassing? Yi Xian sneered. As he spoke, he urged the withered demonic blade spirit to return to its nest. The huge withered demonic blade spirit drilled into the withered demonic blade hovering above his head. Then, he waved his hand and took it into his undying world. At the same time, Yi Xian raised his left hand and pointed at Tuoba Linfeng, who was 1,000,000 miles away. He was only at the peak of the 9th rank of the Star Lord state. Even if he activated the true form of the demonic ape and performed the 5th transformation of the 9 demonic ape transformations bloodline, he would only be able to reach the 1st rank of the Realm Lord state. There was still a big gap between him and Tuoba Linfeng, who was already an immortal being. Since that was the case, activating the demonic ape bloodline didn't make much sense. Instead, it would expose the identities of the other peerless geniuses, which was unwise. Therefore, Yi Xian decided to use the ancient Yixia's bloodline ability, the Heaven-Falling Bow. Even though he was only at the peak of the 9th level of the Star-Lord realm, the bloodline ability was too powerful. It consumed a lot of his cultivation, mental power, physical strength, and even vitality. If he condensed all of that into one attack, he could kill an immortal being even though he was only a peak Star-Lord. At this moment, as he raised his left hand, a golden light suddenly burst forth from Yi Xian's originally empty left palm. The golden bow in the form of energy appeared once again without any suspense. At both ends of the simple and ferocious bow, 2 humanoid creatures that formed a semi-arc bow opened their mouths wide in anger. A bowstring that was clearly made of countless fine golden threads twisted together extended from the wide mouths of the 2 roaring creatures at the same time. Very soon, it condensed into a bowstring. On it, there was a golden energy arrow quietly appearing. Tuoba Linfeng, you've been struggling at death's door for so long. Today, it's time for you to die. As the words came out of his mouth, strands of strange golden brilliance burst out from the depths of Yi Xian's eyes. He raised his right hand and pinched the tail of the energy arrow that was already on the bowstring. Suddenly, he pulled the bowstring to the fullest. Wang! A rapid trembling sound rang out as the energy bow in Yi Xian's hand instantly emitted a blazing golden light. In the blink of an eye, it quickly condensed and poured into the arrows on the bowstring without missing a single drop. It whistled through the air and instantly traversed the endless void, bringing with it a terrifying aura that seemed capable of destroying the heavens and the earth. In the blink of an eye, it had arrived in front of Tuoba Linfeng. This is the Heaven-Falling Bow? Sure enough, it's all because of you. Screech! Boom! At this moment, Tuoba Linfeng's eyes widened in an instant. All the hairs on his body stood up. His figure stopped abruptly in the void as he let out a monstrous roar filled with unwillingness. At this moment, he was finally sure of Yi Xian's identity. He was both Prince Xian and young Master Linghu, whom he had always hated, as well as a few other peerless geniuses. Unfortunately, it was all too late. Along with Tuoba Linfeng's unwilling roar, a series of deafening booms suddenly exploded without warning. At this moment, the whole world seemed to be shaking slightly, as if doomsday was coming. The earth was shaking and the mountains were shaking. Yi Xian's current strength was only at the peak of the 9th rank of the Star-Lord state. Chapter 4107. Boom! A huge rumble rang out. The vast expanse of space several 100,000 kilometers ahead was completely swept away by the terrifying energy that spread out. There were even a lot of fine cracks in the void, as if the void had been a calm pool of water, but then a huge rock had been thrown into it. Water splashed everywhere, and ripples spread out. A strong sense of weakness assaulted Yi Xian's heart. That attack, the energy arrow of the Heaven-Falling Bow, instantly took away almost 70% of all the energy in his body except for his vitality. Even though he was at the peak of the 9th rank of the Star-Lord state, he still couldn't withstand such an attack. This kind of situation also made one's footsteps unsteady. Although the price he had to pay for the attack wasn't small, it was still bearable for Yi Xian. Of course, what was more important was the result of the arrow. Although Tuoba Linfeng had become an undying being and had a mysterious heavenly devil body, the fallen sky bow was the only bloodline ability of the desolate era Supreme Yuxia, which was extremely lethal. At this moment, Yi Xian recklessly shot out this arrow. When the golden-purple energy arrow exploded on Tuoba Linfeng's body, even his strange heavenly demon body couldn't withstand it. In the blink of an eye, it was as if it was unstoppable, carrying a strong sense of unwillingness and monstrous resentment as it completely melted. 4 flying ashes. After a breath of time, the surging energy in front of him quickly entered a period of calmness. However, Tuoba Linfeng's figure had completely disappeared, and not even the slightest trace of his aura could be found. Yi Xian's heart, which had been hanging in his throat the entire time, finally settled down. He was indeed very concerned about the result of the arrow. This was because Tuoba Linfeng was too dangerous. In less than a year, the young master of the Tuoba family, who was casually beaten up by Yi Xian, had grown to break through to the immortal realm. According to Yi Xian's estimates, if he was allowed to continue growing at such a terrifying speed, it would only take him 2 to 3 years at most. This person's cultivation would probably reach the undying emperor level, or even stronger. That was absolutely shocking. Even Yi Xian was afraid of it. Every time he thought of it, he would feel a chill down his spine. After all, even the entire demon race, which had existed for tens of thousands of years, only one ancestor of the entire race had become an undying emperor. However, Tuoba Linfeng, because of his terrifying universe zombie bloodline, was very likely to become an undying emperor in just a few years. That was simply terrifying. In addition, this guy had a heavenly devil body, which was unpredictable. This time, it could only be considered a pleasant surprise. They had blocked him in the zombie lair and forced him out. If not for that, with Yi Xian's means, it was almost impossible to find him in the boundless space of the 3 main planes. It could be said that if he missed the opportunity to kill him today, Yi Xian would definitely regret it. Because the next time he wanted to find Tuoba Linfeng, it would be as difficult as ascending to the heavens, but it would not be too far off. Since Yi Xian entered the space environment, he had encountered countless opponents in the past 2 or 3 years. He had even killed several undying old monsters. There was also Heaven's Eye, who had a transcendent status and was on the same level as the headless infant corpse. Yi Xian had indirectly fought with him several times. Even so, Tuoba Linfeng was still ranked in the top 3 in Yi Xian's heart. After all, when he was at the Heavenly War Empire's Heavenly War Star, he was clearly sure that he had killed Tuoba Linfeng. However, he never expected that so many unforeseen events would occur later on. Now that he thought about it, he couldn't help but sigh endlessly. Fortunately, Tuoba Linfeng had been killed in the end. This time, Yi Xian was extremely confident. He'd always had strong confidence in the overbearing might of the heavens. Fall Bao because it had never disappointed him. Besides the headless infant corpse, this was absolutely Yi Xian's greatest trump card, and it even surpassed the farmer god cauldron. At this moment, with the death of the zombie emperor, Tuoba Linfeng, Yi Xian's heart that was hanging in his throat was completely confirmed. Although the interior and exterior of the heavenly river star were still not peaceful, even in the void of the universe outside the planet's atmosphere, the battlefield stretched for millions of miles. Even though the zombie emperor, Tuoba Linfeng, had perished, there were still a few 100 million low-level corpse slaves, over 1 million black hole realm elite zombie soldiers, over a few thousand universe realm zombie battleships, over 100 region lord realm zombie commanders, and 4 mid-stage sempiternal realm zombie beasts wreaking havoc. However, as far as Yi Xian was concerned, these zombies were nothing. There was no need to mention the other elite zombie soldiers, generals, and commanders. Even the 4 mid-stage Neverlife realm zombie beasts weren't taken seriously by him. At the very least, no matter how formidable these fellows were, they couldn't compare to Tuoba Linfeng, who possessed a true heavenly devil physique that was capable of a myriad of changes. Once they fled, then it was utterly impossible to follow them. So long as they continued to lie dormant, then it would be impossible to even find a trace of them. However, what he never expected was that Tuoba Linfeng's complete death, to him, was equivalent to resolving a knot in his heart, but at the same time, it also represented a true monstrous calamity. In an instant, without any warning, it suddenly descended. Roar! Roar! Screech! almost at the same instant that Tuoba Linfeng's heavenly devil physique was blasted apart by the golden energy arrow of the fallen sky bow, and was completely annihilated. An incomparably mournful roar of zombies suddenly resounded from all over the distant void around Sky River Star. Boom! 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 Before Yi Xian could react to what had happened, along with the shocking roar of zombies, a large number of roars and explosions resounded like a tide. All of this happened so suddenly that even Yi Xian was stunned. Then, a flash of insight flashed through his mind, and his expression instantly changed. When he turned his head to look, the scene that entered his eyes instantly confirmed the guess that had surfaced in his heart. At this moment, an extremely strong sense of crisis instantly enveloped his heart, causing him to not think too much about it. Almost as if it was a conditioned reflex, he directly waved his hand and activated the divine cauldron. The Shengnong cauldron that was stored in the undying world within his body. Body explosion. Boundless body explosion. His gaze swept across, from near to far, almost covering the entire sky and earth. Chapter 4108. Screech, bang, 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 bang. Along with the frenzied screeches of the zombies in the universe, endless banging sounds swept over like a tide. In an instant, the cosmic void that was millions of kilometers away from Sky River Planet's atmosphere had transformed into a land of evil and deadly poison. Such a scene was too horrifying. Even Yi Xian, who had experienced many large-scale battles in the past year, had never seen such a terrifying scene. In this cosmic void that was millions of kilometers in circumference, there were originally hundreds of millions of corpse slaves, over 1 million Black Hole Realm zombie soldiers, over 10,000 Universe Realm zombie battleships, over 100 Domain Lord Realm zombie commanders, and 4 mid-stage Sempiternal Realm zombies. Giant beasts. But at this moment, as the zombie emperor Tuoba Linfeng was completely annihilated, these corpse slaves, zombie elite soldiers, generals, commanders, and even the 4 Sempiternal Realm zombie beasts all exploded. Without exception, all of them exploded, and the zombie poison and pus in their bodies splattered out and spread throughout the entire void. This scene caused Yi Xian to instantly feel deep self-blame in his heart. He should have expected this scene because the entire zombie army in the universe was actually born because of Tuoba Linfeng. If the zombie army in the universe was compared to a special race, then Tuoba Linfeng, as the zombie emperor, was clearly the blood of this race. The progenitor of the bloodline. Moreover, the zombie race in the universe clearly had some kind of extremely strict bloodline hierarchy, and this kind of hierarchy led to an unknown bloodline connection between the zombies in the universe. To put it simply, they were bound together for good or ill. Of course, there was absolutely only one existence that could affect the entire race's reputation, and it was Tuoba Linfeng, who had always been the bloodline of the zombie race in the universe. All the other zombies in the universe, including the 4 mid-stage Sempiternal Realm zombie beasts, the poison in their bodies came from Tuoba Linfeng. It could be said that the death of any other existence in this race would not have any effect on the existence and bloodline connection of the entire race, even if the 4 Sempiternal Realm zombie beasts suddenly died. But Tuoba Linfeng was different. Once he died and was completely annihilated, it was equivalent to a self-destruct device in the bloodline of this race being fully activated. It was precisely because of this reason that after Tuoba Linfeng, who was regarded as the bloodline source of the zombie race in the universe, was shot down by Yi Xian with a single arrow and completely annihilated, the entire zombie race that had evolved because of the zombie poison in his body was completely cut off from the bloodline source. What happened next was that the self-destruct device in the bloodline was triggered. All the zombies in the universe did not even have the ability to resist, and they instantly exploded and died. This was originally a good thing. With all the universe zombies gone, this difficult intergalactic war could be said to have come to an end. In particular, the explosion and death of the 4 mid-stage Sempiternal Realm zombie beasts was of great significance. Otherwise, even if Old Ghost Mosquito Butcher, Gong Huaji, and Long Shantang took action, they would have to spend a lot of energy, and even pay the huge price of losing an immortal realm old monster. But at the same time, such a scene was actually a disaster, a catastrophe whose consequences were almost impossible to predict. Although all the hundreds of millions of zombies in the universe had exploded and died, the large amount of zombie poison and pus that sputtered out of their bodies was a huge malignant tumor. Yes, the corpse emperor Tuoba Linfeng had indeed been annihilated, which meant that the bloodline of the zombie race in the universe had completely disappeared. Some kind of brand related to Tuoba Linfeng that remained in the poison in the bodies of all the zombies in the universe had disappeared. But the zombie poison did not disappear because of this. Once the poison infected other humans or other flesh and blood creatures, a new zombie race in the universe would soon be born again. There might even be more than one. Hundreds of millions of zombies in the universe had all exploded. A large amount of zombie poison and pus covered the universe void within a radius of millions of miles. In just a moment, it was unknown how many powerhouses in the universe who did not have protective measures were caught off guard and infected by the sputtering poison. The zombie poison had spread. Even Xianxia could not save these people. Soon, a horrible zombie transformation would occur. And if this situation was not stopped immediately, the final consequences would be unimaginable. The result of such a large amount of zombie poison and pus was that the entire human race in the third universe would face a life-and-death crisis because of the rapidly spreading zombie poison. Although Xianxia was not wrong, Tuoba Linfeng had to be killed, otherwise there would be endless troubles. Even the initial birth of him, the zombie emperor, was not the responsibility of Xianxia. It was the work of the real young master Linghu who had fallen long ago. It was him who brought an immortal and imperishable bead from the Yin demon clan in the second universe and crushed it in the Shenong cauldron to poison it, leading to what happened later. All of this was born. But Xianxia always had a kind of self-blame in his heart. He thought that whether it was the real young master Linghu who had made a move to cause all of this, or now that he had killed the zombie emperor Tuoba Linfeng, it had inadvertently caused a new disaster. He might have made an unintentional mistake, but he had to bear some responsibility. But now was obviously not the time to blame himself. Time was too tight. He had to immediately find a way to solve all of this and curb the spread of the zombie poison. In order to make up for his mistake and to stop the spread of the zombie poison, Xianxia did not hesitate to directly wave his hand and summon the Shenong cauldron. In this way, his other identities would undoubtedly be exposed in an instant, but at this time, he had no time to care about it. Xiao! As the Shenong cauldron was summoned, it crossed the void and appeared in the form of a huge superstar. Xianxia's figure suddenly flashed, and he had already arrived at the mouth of the cauldron filled with 9-colored fog. His figure bobbed up and down in the dense fog. Then he waved his hand, and in an instant, the Shenong 7-colored flame rushed out of the cauldron like a majestic river. In the blink of an eye, it divided into 4 and shot away in 4 different directions. This scene was like the 7-colored Milky Way hanging in the 9 heavens, and it was rapidly spreading in 4 directions to the surroundings. The root of the Shenong exotic flame was in the flame pool at the bottom of the volcano in the central region of the space inside the Shenong cauldron. As long as the source of the exotic flame in the flame pool was not extinguished, the 7-colored flame that gushed out of the cauldron would be endless. Chapter 4109. Ah! Bang bang! Roar! In the air as all the zombie slaves, elite zombie soldiers, generals, and commanders exploded, a cloud of zombie toxins and disgusting, colorful liquids splashed out in all directions. Some people were affected immediately, whether it was in the inner or outer battle circles. At this moment, in addition to a large number of Starry Sky battleships fighting fiercely, there were also some Starry Sky powerhouses fighting with their cultivation base, exposing their bodies to the void. Some of these Starry Sky powerhouses had activated their defensive magic treasures, covering their bodies with a layer of light curtain, or were inside a nearly sealed defensive armor. These existences, like the Prince's fans, the Federation people, and the Starry Sky powerhouses inside the starships, were temporarily spared and weren't immediately infected by the zombie toxins. However, there were also some who didn't have such defensive measures at all. The result was obvious. When the zombies around them suddenly exploded, a large amount of zombie poison and pus spread out, and they were infected at the first moment. Miserable howls sounded almost instantly, and they could be heard everywhere in the void. Some of the Starry Sky powerhouses were contaminated with too much zombie toxins, and they were almost drenched like a rat in soup. The stench was overwhelming, and there was almost no way to deal with it, and they began to turn into zombies directly. Some of the infected didn't start to turn into zombies in a short time due to the small amount of zombie toxins on their bodies, but their bodies were obviously feeling it. When they saw their companions who were originally fighting side by side quickly turning into zombies, they couldn't bear it anymore. In desperation, they took advantage of the fact that the zombies hadn't completely turned into zombies, and they directly exploded. Tragic. It was too tragic. Although the Universe Zombie Army under Tuoba Linfeng's command had been completely annihilated, along with the Zombie Emperor, the source of this Universe zombie bloodline, he had also disappeared. But at this moment, with the outbreak of the zombie toxins, the new Universe zombies, in a short time, were discovered again. Moreover, these Universe zombies that had just appeared were different. They were all first-generation zombies, and each of them belonged to the source of their bloodline. This was because they were infected with a pure, undying, indestructible poison that didn't have the aura of any other creature. If these newly infected and zombified universe zombies were to break out of the encirclement, a large number of universe zombies would soon appear in the third universe of the human race. None of them had any bloodline inheritance relationship with each other. It was simply impossible to eliminate them through cleaning and annihilation. There were even a few universe-grade starry sky powerhouses in the periphery of the battlefield. They were caught off guard by the overwhelming zombie toxins and immediately turned into zombies. In the blink of an eye, several universe-grade first-generation universe zombies appeared. They were definitely a few of the biggest tumors. Because they were already so powerful when they were first infected with the corpse poison, they weren't far from the immortal realm. If they weren't killed immediately, after this battle, they would probably evolve to the immortal realm very quickly. It wouldn't even be long before they became Marquis or Emperor Immortals. Seeing this scene and thinking of the terrifying consequences of such a situation, Yi Xian's eyes suddenly narrowed. He immediately shouted, "Old man Mosquito Butcher, you guys immediately kill those universe-grade zombies. Once they break out, the next time we meet them, it might be a terrifying Marquis Undying Corpse Emperor." Hearing this, Old Man Mosquito Butcher didn't have much of a reaction. After all, his original body wasn't weak. A conservative estimate was that he was at least an Emperor Immortal. However, the three old men, Gong Huaji, Long Shantang, and Elephant Fox Martin, were so scared that they trembled all over. With their understanding of the universe's zombies, they naturally knew that Yi Xian wasn't exaggerating. The speed at which this kind of terrifying creature evolved was indeed so fast that it made one's hair stand on end. The corpse emperor that was killed earlier was merely a descendant of the Tuoba family of the Heavenly War Empire. Not even. It had only been half a year, but it had already soared to the immortal realm. In addition, they had seen the four zombie beasts transform from sector lords to immortal beasts in the blink of an eye by devouring each other. There was absolutely no room for carelessness. If those zombies, who were at least universe-grade at the beginning, escaped, they would definitely become Marquis Immortals in a short time. With ferocious expressions, the four immortal realm-old monsters immediately took action. They spread out and began to hunt in the inner and outer circles of the battlefield. They specifically targeted those who were above the Star-Lord level and had already been infected by the zombie poison. As long as they set their eyes on a target, they would show no mercy, no matter who they were or which force they came from, even if they were their own subordinates. They would definitely smash them into pieces and completely eliminate the potential threat they represented. Huff! On the other side, Yi Xian's figure stood at the mouth of the Shenong cauldron that was like an enormous star. The power of the nine-colored fog floated up and down, and from time to time, his eyes would emit strands of light. He was completely focused on controlling the boundless seven-colored flames that poured out from the cauldron and shot them towards the edge of the entire void battlefield. Faced with such a terrifying situation that was almost out of control, the only thing Yi Xian could rely on was the seven-colored flames in the Shenong cauldron. Only the invincible Shenong flames could refine all the zombie poison and burn away all evils in the world. Nothing else would work in such a situation. Such a calamitous situation was no longer something that could be controlled by the strength of one's cultivation. One had to rely on special treasures to activate the power of the field inside the cauldron in order to achieve a suppressive effect. Of course, if it was in existence at the level of the headless infant corpse, it would be a different story. At the same time, Yi Xian took out the Shenong cauldron and directly waved his hand to roll out a large sea of seven-colored flames like a sea of flames from the cauldron. The flames spread out in all directions at an extremely fast speed. Around the battlefield, in a large number of starry sky warships, countless fans of the prince, citizens of the Federation, and starry sky powerhouses from all over were stunned for a few moments. Soon, they shuddered and then cried out involuntarily. Heavens, what did I just see? Am I blind? That's the Medicine King's divine cauldron? What happened? Isn't that young Master Ling Hu's thing? No, it should be the demon's younger brother, Mo Jinfeng. He had already admitted the fact that the five great evildoers were one. I have a frightening guess that just popped up in my mind. I can't get rid of it no matter how hard I try. Fellow cultivators, do you think I'm crazy? Chapter 41:10. As the Shenong cauldron was summoned by Yi Xian with a wave of his hand, the secret of his identity and all the details were completely and helplessly revealed at this moment. Among the younger generation of the current world, there were a total of 7 existences known as peerless geniuses that had appeared out of nowhere. Originally, Everyone thought that these 7 peerless geniuses belonged to the human race and the demon race. The identities of young Master Linghu, young Master Netherworld, mechanical war god Sha Baofeng, and little primordial demon ape were attributed to Mo Jinfeng, the younger brother of the demon race, giving him the beautiful name of being one of the 5 peerless geniuses. On the human race side of the third universe, the 2 peerless geniuses, Prince Xian and Invincible War God, were added to Yi Xian. As a commoner with no background, although he only fought for the title of being one of the 2 peerless geniuses, because of Prince Xian's 2 appearances, his battle results were too shocking. Yes. Therefore, compared to the 5 great monstrous geniuses, the halo above Yi Xian's head was even more intense than that of the devil's royal brother, Mo Yufeng. Moreover, even the ownership of the current era's great destiny was believed by countless powerhouses in the 3 main planes of the starry skies to belong to the human race because of Yi Xian's existence. However, no one expected that the final truth would be so shocking. It turned out that even the younger brother of the demon race, Mo Jinfeng, who was known as one of the 5 peerless geniuses, was just another identity of Yi Xian like Prince Xian and Invincible War God. What 5 peerless geniuses is one? What 2 peerless geniuses is one? None of them were complete. The final truth was only 6 words. 7 peerless geniuses as one. Young Master Linghu, young Master Netherworld, mechanical war god Sha Baofeng, little primordial demon ape, Mo Jinfeng, Invincible War God, Prince Xian. These 7 peerless monstrous geniuses were all just illusions. They only had one common original body, and that was Yi Xian. He was a commoner with no background behind him. Even his interstellar mercenary identity was only registered 2 or 3 years ago. At the time, Yi Xian had only been at the lowest level of the core realm. And yet, he had become a peak 9th rank Star Lord after only 1,000 days. He had also earned the reputation of being one of the 7 unparalleled geniuses with astounding achievements. He had wreaked havoc in almost all the 3 main planes of space. They were all pushing forward, sweeping and invincible. All of this was so shocking that after the sudden discovery of this shocking truth, the countless people of the Heavenly River Star in the vast battlefield that spanned millions of kilometers in the void, as well as the countless people of the Heavenly River Star on countless starships, were in danger of being shrouded by the zombie poison for a moment. Because they had all been temporarily forgotten. Everyone had sluggish expressions on their faces. It was as if their breathing had stopped, and all of them looked as if they had just been struck by lightning. In a certain space fortress, the purplish warbler, Duanmu Xiaocha, and Zhao Qianru were the same. However, they had already known the secret, and were only a little surprised at the moment. They didn't expect the matter to be fully exposed so soon. Sigh, this guy is completely famous now. Everyone in the 3 universes knows him. Even the immortal state-old monsters have to look up to him when they talk about him. Indeed. The 7 peerless geniuses are one. He's simply inhuman. Not only is this unprecedented, but there will also be no future generations. I really don't know how he did it. He's too good at causing trouble. Well, this guy won't be impetuous because of this, will he? Sister Ziying, we're all his people. Once this guy becomes famous, he won't abandon the 3 of us, right? The last sentence was said by Duanmu Xiaocha. Her face was full of worry, and coupled with these embarrassing words, it instantly made the purplish warbler and Zhao Qianru blush. After spitting in unison, they chased after her and hit her. On the other side, the 3 girls were playing around again. They were in a large fortress, and there was a sector lord guarding it. Naturally, they weren't afraid of the invasion of the zombie poison. At the same time, the countless Federation citizens and space warriors in the starships on the battlefield came back to their senses after a short moment of daze. In an instant, cries of surprise rose like a tide. Heavens, the 7 peerless geniuses are one. This is simply inhumane. It has never happened before, and it will never happen again. Yi Xian is truly heaven-defying. Supreme peerless genius. He's definitely a supreme peerless genius. Since ancient times, he's the only one who's worthy of this title. I get it. I finally get it. No wonder he was able to instantly climb to the top of the Federation's contribution list as Prince Xian, and even have more than 180 billion contribution points. Everything was done in the first universe. Young Master Linghu, Young Master Hades, the primordial little devil ape, and the other identities. Which one of them isn't infamous? Moreover, for the past year, he spent almost all of his time outside the 3rd universe of the human race. Even the Tianji clan was forced to migrate because of him. With such a battle record, if he can't get 1.8 trillion contribution points from the Federation, it would be strange if he gave up his contribution points. That's right. There's also the identity of the mechanical war god Sha Baofeng. Back then, he was once conferred the title of Young Master of the Tianji clan by the patriarch of the Tianji clan, De. This slap in the face was too loud. De didn't even have the face to meet people. Just this alone can be counted as at least 100 million Federation contribution points. In that case 1.8 trillion isn't a lot. In fact, the contribution points he earned are far more than that. Don't forget that after he returned as the king, the data on the heavenly list went crazy. Yi Xian's ranking fluctuated up and down countless times. In the end, when he was at the top of the list with 1.8 trillion contribution points, he had already lost his contribution points. I don't know how many points were deducted. You can be willful when you're rich, but there's no other way. He's really too good at causing trouble. Although what he did was basically beneficial to the Federation, so he was counted as a contribution point. But there are also some that definitely harm the interests of the Federation. That's the reason for the deduction of contribution points. Don't forget, he even killed the immortal old monster of the myriad Luo Federation. Not to mention extorting from the two camps of the human race. It's been more than once. Phew! At the same time that countless cries of surprise resounded like a tide from the surroundings of the battlefield, Yi Xian waved his hand and summoned 4 boundless 7-colored seas of flames that poured out from the Shenong cauldron beneath his feet. Finally, they rushed to the edge of the battlefield, which was millions of kilometers away. Moreover, they immediately spread out. In just a dozen breaths, these 4 7-colored flames once again gathered at the edge of the battlefield. At this point, the entire void battlefield with a radius of millions of miles was basically surrounded by the 7-colored flames in the Shenong cauldron. Then, as Yi Xian's mind turned, the sound of flames suddenly became louder. The mottled light shield formed by the Shenong cauldron of 7-colored flames around the battlefield began to slowly and continuously shrink inward. Chapter 41:11. The entire void battlefield had a radius of 3 to 4 million square kilometers. Even though Yi Xian was a peak 9th-rank Starlord and had the power of the Shenong cauldron, the Shenong flames had evolved into 7-colored flames. As a result, his power had long since increased greatly, and he was able to be activated even more thoroughly by Yi Xian. However, such a vast area was already his limit. It was safe to say that if the void battlefield had been hundreds of thousands of square kilometers wider, Yi Xian wouldn't have been able to completely surround it with the 7-colored flames leaking from the Shenong cauldron, even if he had fully activated the power of the Shenong cauldron. In fact, this void battlefield that spanned millions of kilometers was now surrounded by the 7-colored sea of flames that had suddenly leaked out from the Shenong cauldron. It was like a dumpling, forming a mottled screen of light that enveloped the entire area. But at this moment, as this huge light curtain slowly and continuously retracted, all the mutated zombies it touched along the way were not all suppressed without exception. This was understandable. After all, the scene was too big. The entire mottled light curtain covered millions of miles of the vast void, directly causing the power of the 7-colored flame sea to be greatly weakened. It was no pressure at all to deal with the zombie toxins and disgusting pus that had splashed everywhere due to the explosions of countless cosmic zombies. As the light screen of the sea of flames continued to shrink, the disgusting pus filled with zombie poison was squeezed out without any suspense. It was also slowly moving towards the center of the light screen where the Shenong cauldron was located beneath Yi Xian's feet. However, the new batch of universe zombies that had just completed zombification because they were contaminated with zombie venom, and the weaker ones were immediately blown away by the approaching flame sea light screen. Their entire bodies turned into zombie venom and pus, and were pushed toward the light screen area. However, some of the more powerful universe zombies were immediately burned and melted by the slowly retracting flame sea light curtain. In the end, because the flame sea light curtain's power was greatly weakened, even if only one of these universe zombies was left alive, they would still be able to escape from the flame sea light curtain. Even one of their heads could survive. At this time, the light curtain of the sea of flames had already arrived in front of them. It was as if these surviving space zombies had already avoided the light curtain of the sea of flames and had unknowingly escaped outside of the light curtain. Seeing this, Old Ghost Mosquito Butcher, Elephant Fox Martin, Gong Huaji, Long Shan Tang, and the other immortal old monsters changed their expressions instantly. Without hesitation, they rushed out of the light screen of the flame sea and appeared outside the light screen, guarding one side of the light screen. Then, each of them unleashed their great divine abilities and mercilessly pushed all the fish that had escaped the net forward. In the blink of an eye, they fell into the sea of flames again. Seeing this scene, Xianxia, whose heart was in his throat, immediately heaved a sigh of relief. With these 4 immortal-level-old monsters guarding the light screen of the flame sea, all the fish that escaped the net would be thrown back into the huge net formed by the Shenong 7-colored flame at the first possible moment. And these universe zombies were basically all seriously injured when the previous light curtain passed through their bodies. If similar injuries were to occur again, they would obviously not be able to withstand it. At most, they would be able to do it 3 or 4 times. In short, Xianxia did not need to worry about this anymore. After retracting his gaze from the light curtain at the edge of the battlefield, Xianxia was no longer distracted. He concentrated on controlling the power of the Shenong cauldron field under his feet. Time passed slowly. Unknowingly, more than 2 hours had passed. During this period of time, the light screen of the Sea of Flames that originally enveloped an area of 3 to 4 million kilometers was slowly but steadily shrinking. At present, the light screen of the Sea of Flames that looked like a giant ball of light had shrunk by less than half. It was only slightly more than 2 million kilometers wide. However, all the zombie toxins and disgusting pus were not missed. They were all covered in the light curtain and were still pushing toward the center of the Shenong cauldron. At this time, a large number of starships that were originally covered in the light curtain of the flame sea were now outside the light curtain. With Xianxia's current cultivation and strength, as well as his control over the power of the Divine Nong Cauldron domain after the Divine Nong Strange Flame grew to a 7-colored flame, the current Xianxia was able to freely control the 7-colored Sea of Flames to carry out different attacks and effects. It was exactly because of that that almost none of the starships that had been thrown out of the light beam because of the constriction of the light beam had been affected by it. Even if they were damaged, they were all caused in the chaotic space battles earlier. Moreover, when the light curtain of the flame sea passed by the surface of these starships, all the pus and zombie toxins that were stuck on the starships were taken away and firmly confined inside the light curtain, unable to escape. For the large number of Federation citizens and Starry Sky powerhouses who were inside the starships, but whose starships were outside the light curtain of the flame sea, until now, they were truly safe. He could even step out of the starship without worrying that there were still remnants of the zombie virus in the universe of the Sea of Flames and light beams. In fact, there were indeed some Starry Sky powerhouses who walked out of the starships under their feet. At this moment, they were standing in the space of the universe outside the light curtain, staring blankly at the light curtain of the flame sea that was still shrinking inwards in front of them. Every one of them was in a daze. Everything that happened just now was just like a nightmare. When a huge number of cosmic zombies were born, when all the cosmic zombies, after the death of the zombie emperor Tuo Balinfeng, exploded without any warning, turning the entire space they were in into a hopeless situation full of disgusting pus and zombie toxins. They really never thought that they would be able to stand unscathed outside the light curtain of the flame sea that blocked all the zombie viruses, like a spectator, leisurely looking at the thrilling scene in front of them. Time continued to pass. Unknowingly, more than 2 hours had passed. As the light curtain of the flame sea continued to shrink, its power was obviously increasing. Therefore, the speed at which the light curtain of the flame sea was shrinking naturally became faster and faster. In just a little more than 2 hours, the light curtain of the flame sea that was originally more than 2 million miles in diameter was now only tens of thousands of miles in diameter. At this time, all the starships that were not damaged in the previous chaotic battle had basically been thrown outside the light curtain of the flame sea. They were spread out in the space of the flame sea, but they were all like spectators, quietly standing in the space of the distance, silently watching. Chapter 41:12. Immortal and Indestructible Biomass Energy? Do you want to devour it immediately and start tempering your body? As the familiar system notification sounded in his mind without warning, Xianxia was stunned on the spot. Then, his gaze fell on the zombie poison that was enveloped in the huge light screen of the Shenong Flame Sea. It looked colorful, but because it was gathered together, its color was extremely dark. Just a glance at it gave people a chill down their backs. This thing was actually called Immortal and Indestructible Biomass Energy? It could actually be devoured and have the effect of tempering one's body? Wasn't this the F*King zombie poison and pus? What kind of joke was this? As these thoughts flashed through his mind, Xianxia began to doubt the devouring system in his body for the first time. The content of the notification just now was really too strange. He was very familiar with the zombie poison and disgusting pus in front of him. Just now, he had seen with his own eyes how many Starry Sky powerhouses were infected by it. Infected and then directly turned into zombies? Under such circumstances, to make Yi Xian choose to unconditionally believe it, grit his teeth, and give an affirmative answer, and let the system devour these disgusting things, the psychological barrier was really not small. With this hesitant mentality, Yi Xian continued to control the field power of the Shenong cauldron to evolve and compress the zombie poison and disgusting pus in the surrounding void. Another 2 hours passed. The light screen of the Shenong Flame Sea, which was originally 10,000 miles in radius, had now shrunk to about 100 miles in diameter. In this 100 miles of void covered by the light screen of the Flame Sea, not a single starship could be seen at this moment. All the starships were pushed out of the light screen of the Flame Sea after being purified of the zombie poison on the starships by the light screen of the Flame Sea. The Federation citizens and Starry Sky powerhouses in the starships were completely safe. In fact, at this time, Yi Xian and the Shenong cauldron under his feet were actually already outside the light screen of the Flame Sea. The Shenong cauldron was now in its complete form, and its size was comparable to a superstar. As for the Flame Sea light screen that had shrunk to its current size, it was only 100 kilometers in diameter. At this moment, it was located in the void beside the Farmer God cauldron. Compared to the enormous Farmer God cauldron, it was simply an unremarkable little. On the surface of the sphere, which was only 100 miles in diameter, was a layer of colorful, translucent flame formed by a light screen. Inside the sphere, which was enveloped by this layer of flame, was a stagnant liquid that looked like a lake. It was all zombie venom and disgusting pus. Just as Yi Xian was hesitating on how to deal with this incomparably poisonous liquid ball, the system notification that had already appeared once before actually sounded out again without any warning. Ding! Congratulations to host. Discovered immortal indestructible bioenergy. Do you want to devour it immediately to temper your body? F***CK. Again. Yi Xian froze for a moment and hesitated. He was very familiar with the nature of the devouring system. Although the system would automatically send out a system notification whenever it encountered a resource that was beneficial to the system or the host of the system, it would ask whether or not to devour it. However, under normal circumstances, this kind of notification sound would only appear once. If the host refused or did not give any response, a similar system notification sound would not appear again in a short period of time. But now, in just a short period of time, the system notification asking Yi Xian whether or not to immediately devour this so-called immortal indestructible bioenergy had already appeared twice in a row. This could only mean one thing, and that was that this opportunity was extremely important. Moreover, from the fact that the effect of this object was to be used to temper the body by devouring, this importance was clearly targeted at Yi Xian himself, and not at the devouring system in his body. Since this was the case, Yi Xian had no choice but to take this seriously. He immediately suppressed the rejection in his heart and directly started searching and inquiring about this so-called immortal indestructible bioenergy in the database of the system. There was no relevant data before, but now that the system had come into contact with this immortal indestructible bioenergy, the database of the system had obviously been updated. Yi Xian easily found it and started flipping through it. After a short while, he finally understood. In the void beside the Shenong cauldron, this rainbow fireball with a diameter of 100 miles contained a huge amount of liquid. It was indeed zombie poison and disgusting pus, but at the same time, it was also the semi-finished product of the immortal indestructible bioenergy mentioned by the system. If he directly devoured it into his body now, the result was obvious. He would die a horrible death. However, if some of the harmful substances, such as certain toxins, were refined, its attributes and essence would change. If he devoured it, it would be one of the best resources to temper the body. He dared not say that it could be compared to the all-evil origin liquid, but after all, it was superior in quantity. Therefore, this was definitely a huge opportunity. After all, although these disgusting green liquids contained terrifying zombie toxins, they were formed by a large number of cosmic zombies after all. From a certain point of view, they were actually a kind of energy, just a little more special. Without a doubt, within the 7-colored flame sphere on the side of the Shenong cauldron, there was a large pool of undying and indestructible biomass energy that had a diameter of 100 miles. If he were to completely refine and devour it, then Yi Xian's own cultivation would definitely increase by a large margin this time. At this thought, Yi Xian immediately became excited. This fortune was simply destined to belong to him. Although the undying and indestructible biomass was a good thing, how could an ordinary being refine such a huge chunk with a diameter of 100 miles without a primordial treasure such as the Shenong cauldron? However, this problem did not exist for Yi Xian at all. With a thought, he immediately activated the power of the Shenong cauldron under his feet. With a whoosh, an even more majestic rainbow fireball poured out from the mouth of the cauldron, shooting toward the liquid ball on the right that was completely enveloped by the light screen formed by the rainbow fireball, directly refining the harmful toxins. Now that the Shenong exotic flames had grown to the height of the rainbow fireball, its power was no longer what it used to be. It was extremely powerful. Even this sea of zombie liquid poison that was 100 miles in radius only took a dozen minutes to completely refine the harmful toxins within it. At this time, not only did this liquid ball, which was originally 100 miles in radius, shrink to about half its original size, its color was no longer as disgusting. Instead, it emitted a brilliant rainbow radiance like the Shenong exotic flames, looking like a dream. Chapter 41:13. It was not that Yi Xian was generous and was willing to share such a rare resource with others. It was just that this so-called undying and indestructible biomass energy was too special and could not be stored for future use. Moreover, this brilliant sea of seven-colored liquid was dozens of kilometers in radius. According to Yi Xian's deduction using the devouring system, he could not use it all by himself. At most, he could only use 30% of it. The second reason. Since that was the case, based on the principle of not wasting anything, he could only share this opportunity with the others. However, he was not in a hurry to persuade anyone to share such a good thing. Therefore, he simply waved his hand. Whoever wanted to come could come, and it did not matter if they did not. After saying this, Yi Xian did not pay any more attention to it. His entire body sank down and could no longer be seen. It looked as if he had been directly swallowed by this huge pool of seven-colored liquid. All of this happened too quickly. Among the large number of starships in the surrounding void, everyone thought that Yi Xian was refining the compressed zombie poison in the light curtain of the Sea of Flames. After all, the power of the seven-colored flame of the Shenong cauldron was obvious to all. If it were not for this flame, the zombie poison would have filled the entire void. It was a vast expanse of the void. However, the unforeseen event happened so quickly. In the blink of an eye, Yi Xian, who was refining the zombie poison, jumped into the pool of zombie poison that was still dozens of kilometers in diameter. At the same time as he jumped, he even turned around and waved at the experts in the surrounding void. What did he say? That they wanted to come together. F***CK. Come my ass. This is a pool of zombie venom that can poison people to death. Have you gone crazy? He suddenly jumped into the pool to soak himself in zombie poison, and he actually invited his companions? As these thoughts flashed through their minds, the countless experts in the starships in the surrounding void were all dumbfounded. Especially when they saw Yi Xian jump into the sea of zombie poison and did not pop up again. It seemed that he had been poisoned in an instant and sunk into the depths of the sea of zombie poison. Most people were shocked, as if they had been struck by lightning. Their minds were in a complete mess, however. What no one expected was that in the face of such a strange and terrifying situation, there were actually people who were not afraid of death. Or to be more precise, they were rushing to their deaths. What was even more surprising was that it was not just one person rushing to their deaths, but three people, and they were actually three women. Purplish Warbler, Duanmu Xiaocha, and Zhao Qianru. These three girls were originally in a large fortress from the heavenly underworld empire, but at this moment, they rushed out of the fortress at the same time. Without hesitation, they rushed toward the giant liquid sphere that drowned Yi Xian. The reason for this was that the three of them knew Yi Xian too well. If the liquid in this sphere that was dozens of miles in diameter was really disgusting pus and zombie poison, Yi Xian would definitely not jump into it. Moreover, he had waved and said those words at the end, which made the three girls even more certain. Of course, the most important reason was that the liquid was constantly being condensed by the light screen of the Sea of Flames. The three of them had stayed in the Shenong cauldron for a period of time, so they were more clear and confident about the magical effects of the Shenong unusual flame than anyone else in the outside world. And the power of the Shenong unusual flame at that time was obviously not just a little bit weaker than the current seven-colored flame. The Shenong unusual flame at that time was already so powerful. It was needless to say that it was now. Even the highly toxic zombie toxins and disgusting pus could be neutralized in a short period of time. As a result, the colorful liquid had turned into a colorful liquid. It was definitely a different kind of substance. The toxins had been neutralized, and it had become a good thing. Even Yi Xian, who had become a Star Lord, had jumped in without hesitation, not to mention the three of them. It had to be noted that they hadn't even reached the universe state yet. How could they miss such an opportunity? Plop, plop, 3 soft sounds were heard. The 3 girls, Purplish Warbler, Duanmu Xiaocha, and Zhao Qianru, jumped into the giant liquid sphere that was dozens of miles in diameter before anyone could react. Moreover, just like Yi Xian, who had jumped in earlier, his entire body was covered by the rainbow-colored liquid. Devouring. This scene happened too suddenly. In the surrounding space, within the starry sky battleships, a large number of cries of alarm sounded out. Many people were so scared that their faces turned pale. This was because they didn't understand Yi Xian, nor had they come into contact with the Shenong Cauldron's Shenong strange flame. At this moment, seeing this scene, the only thought in his mind was that these 3 girls were also crazy. They were tired of living and wanted to die, but they didn't choose a cleaner way. They actually jumped into this disgusting zombie's poison and pus. Oh my god! What did I just see? Are they all crazy? In the blink of an eye, 4 people jumped into that lump of zombie venom one after another. This is definitely the rhythm of an old man hanging himself, the rhythm of a sick and tired of living. Well, I feel like vomiting. That's all zombie poison and pus. It's disgusting to look at from so far away, but they still jumped in. Do they think it's not disgusting enough? It's too scary. It's too crazy. It's over. My idols couldn't think straight and jumped into the zombie pus. The poison killed them. I don't want to live anymore. What a pity. It's really a pity. 3 pretty girls, but their brains are damaged. Sigh, it's a sin. Inside the immortal and indestructible bioenergy liquid sphere with a diameter of dozens of miles, Yi Xian, Shen Yuanziying, Duanmu Xiaocha, and Zhao Qianru, who had jumped in one after another, were all sitting cross-legged in the depths of the liquid ball. Their eyes were tightly closed as they entered a state of cultivation. The moment they jumped in and came into contact with a colorful liquid, they already knew the benefits of this thing. They didn't need to actively absorb it at all. The colorful liquid had some kind of mysterious power that kept drilling into their bodies through their 1.08 billion pores. The feeling was quite wonderful. Their limbs, bones, muscles, bones and blood, every inch of flesh, and every cell suddenly became active and cheerfully accepted the baptism of this mysterious power. Although there was still some pain, and it wasn't an ordinary pain, they could feel their flesh and blood cells becoming stronger almost every second. This kind of physical strength even led to the rapid improvement of the cultivation methods in their sea of consciousness, which was amazing. Chapter 41:14. At this moment, Yi Xian's heart was filled with joy. This kind of undying and indestructible biomass energy was too heaven-defying. Not only could it automatically drill into the body through the pores all over the body, but at the same time, it could temper and strengthen every inch of the body's cells. It also had a rapid effect on the cultivation in the sea of consciousness, which was far more effective than the hellish ant liquid and other quenching materials. The side effects were actually so mild. Although there was pain, it was really insignificant and not proportional to the gains. He even felt warm all over. But in this feeling, his cultivation strength and the strength of his body were constantly and rapidly increasing. It was a big gain. Time passed slowly. In the surrounding void, the starships did not leave but continued to watch. However, although some starry sky masters rushed out of the starships, they only stood in the void from a distance. No one continued to jump into the giant liquid. Inside the liquid. Of course, it was not that the starry sky masters like Naples from Triumph City did not believe in Yi Xian. They were all sure that this was a good luck. But now the young master and the 3 future mistresses were bathing together inside. Cough, cough, it was really not good to disturb them. Therefore, even if they wanted to jump in and get some benefits, they all resisted in the end. The 4 immortal realm masters, including the elephant fox ferret, Gong Huaji, and Long Shan Tang, were also standing in the void at this time. The former 3 stared at the liquid ball with a diameter of dozens of miles, flashing a dim light from time to time. Obviously, they were not calm at the moment. With the vision of the immortal realm masters, they could naturally see that this liquid ball was extraordinary. Although they did not know what it was, according to Yi Xian's previous actions and words, it was obviously something good. At this moment, the elephant fox ferret, Gong Huaji, and Long Shan Tang were hesitating whether they should also jump in and enjoy a cup of soup. You 3 old guys better be honest. It's not easy to make something good, so don't think about it. Can't you leave it to the younger generation? The wretched mosquito slayer, who was standing at the side, gave a timely warning. Furthermore, this thing was created by Xian using the Shunnong unusual flame. He was the one who discovered and solved the zombie crisis on Tianhe planet. It's only right for him to enjoy the fruits of his labor alone. What's more, although this thing is extraordinary, it can't withstand the absorption of the 3 immortal realm masters. If you really jump in, I'm afraid Xian's fortune will be gone. If that's the case, then don't blame me for being rude. At the end of his words, Old Man Mosquito Butcher's eyes flashed and his tone turned harsh. Although he and the 3 old men had fought side by side just now, they were actually not on the same side. There was no need to be polite in this kind of situation. The Immortal Realm Master, with the Immortal Realm Master, with the Immortal Realm Master, with the Immortal Realm Master, the Immortal Realm Master with Mosquito Butcher. If the 3 of them really didn't listen to his advice and insisted on seizing Yi Xian's fortune, once Mosquito Butcher took action, it wouldn't be too difficult to stop the 3 of them together. Hearing his words, the Immortal Realm Master, Gong Huaji, and Long Shantang turned to look at each other and exchanged a look. In the end, they gave up, shook their heads, and smiled bitterly. They didn't do anything else. But they didn't leave. They still stood in the void around. Obviously, they were curious and wanted to stay to see the result. Soon, 4 hours passed. During this time, a group of Yi Xian's trusted subordinates from Triumph City led a Triumph Legion starship army of 1,000,000 battleships into the Tianhe planet through the space passage in the atmosphere of the Tianhe planet. Inside, it was very likely that there were still some fish that had escaped the net. They had to be cleaned up. In addition, this planet had always been the secret headquarters of Tuoba Lin Feng's Universe Zombie Legion. Who knows if he had left some sort of backup plan or something like that. This also needed to be investigated. The Triumph Legion that had entered the Tianhe planet would carry out a thorough search inside the planet. At the same time, the entire Tianhe planet would be disinfected to prevent any remnant of the zombie virus. Finally, there was the Starry Sky Superbrain, which was the intelligence center of the Tianhe planet's interstellar network. Yi Xian already knew that this Starry Sky Superbrain had been zombified. Although it couldn't move and was still in the center of the Tianhe planet's interstellar network, it was an intelligent semi-living thing after all. Therefore, in order to prevent it from playing any tricks, someone must be sent to control it as soon as possible. When all of this unfolded in an intense yet orderly manner, Yi Xian, the purplish warbler, Duanmu Xiaocha, and Zhao Qianru had fallen into the intoxicated pleasure of the improvement in their cultivations and the strengthening of their bodies. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that it was extremely beautiful. After an unknown period of time, when the slight piercing pain throughout his body had vanished, and the rapid rise in his cultivation had finally stopped, Yi Xian's consciousness gradually cleared up, and he opened his eyes. At this instant, the familiar sound of system notifications actually resounded successively in his mind like tidewater. Ding! Congratulations to host for breaking through in the ancient void dimension technique. Current cultivation. First rank region Lord Realm. Ding! Congratulations to host for breaking through in the Qi and Blood realm of the body. Current cultivation. First rank region Lord Realm. As the familiar sound of system notifications resounded in his mind, a wisp of astonishment appeared on Yi Xian's face because of his surprise, but it was quickly followed by wild joy that surged into his heart. For an entire minute, the sound of system notifications hadn't stopped resounding in his mind, and when Yi Xian was slightly stunned by them, the final sentence had finally arrived. Ding! Congratulations to host for breaking through in the ancient void dimension technique. Current cultivation. Perfection in the 9th rank of region Lord Realm. Ding! Congratulations to host for breaking through in the vital blood realm of the physical body. Current cultivation. Perfection in the 9th rank of region Lord Realm. Perfection in the 9th rank of region Lord Realm? My God! It's simply heaven-defying. Before this, his cultivation was merely at the perfection of the 9th rank of the Star Lord Realm. Yet now, he'd advanced 9 ranks successively and directly surmounted an entire realm to attain perfection in the 9th rank of region Lord Realm. It was a leap of an entire realm. Such a terrifying leap in strength was something that Yi Xian had only experienced once in the Tower of Ancient Inheritance within the inner city of the Eternal Dynasty. However, even that couldn't be compared to this. After all, Yi Xian's cultivation was still weak at that time. Yet now, he'd attained perfection in the 9th rank of the Star Lord realm before the arrival of this fortune. Even if it was a leap of an entire realm, the difference in foundation was completely different. Chapter 41:15. Perfection of the 9th level of the region Lord Realm. In just a short few hours, Yi Xian's cultivation had risen explosively by an entire realm. Moreover, it was an explosive increase in both his cultivation and his vital energy. This was absolutely significant. After all, this was merely the strength of his main body in its normal state. Once he activated the devil-ape bloodline within his body, he would be even stronger. Such a thought flashed through his mind, and he immediately activated the devil-ape bloodline within his body. In an instant, the vital energy and blood within his body surged, and a 30-meter-tall ancient devil ape appeared out of thin air. It had 3 heads and 6 arms, and it possessed monstrous ferocity. It actually only rose by a small realm? I merely stepped into the first level of the Sector Lord realm? Yi Xian was instantly stunned when he sensed the strength of the ancient devil-ape bloodline within his body. Merely a small realm of cultivation had risen explosively, and this was far beyond his expectations. Previously, when his main body was at the 9th level of the Star-Lord realm, the strength of the ancient devil-ape bloodline true body was at the 5th level of the Region Lord realm. Once he executed the 9 devil-ape bloodline true body and attained the 5th transformation, he would instantly attain the 1st level of the Sector Lord realm. Every single transformation would increase his strength by a small realm. Now that his main body had broken through once more and attained perfection of the 9th level of the Region Lord realm, according to convention, after activating the ancient devil-ape bloodline, Yi Xian should be able to attain the 5th level of the Sector Lord realm. Once he entered the 5th transformation, his peak combat strength would attain the 1st level of the universe realm. But now, he'd clearly activated the ancient devil-ape bloodline, yet his strength didn't rise by 5 small realms like before. Instead, it had been reduced to a single small realm. After a brief moment of shock, he roughly figured out the crux of the matter, and he couldn't help but shake his head and laugh bitterly. The reason why my cultivation and physical strength would rise greatly after activating the ancient devil-ape bloodline is because of the amplification effect of the ancient devil-ape bloodline. However, it is very clear that this sort of effect will continue to exist as one becomes stronger and stronger. However, it is absolutely impossible for it to always be this obvious. To put it simply, the amplification effect of the devil ape's bloodline towards one's strength was very obvious when one's cultivation was weak, so the improvement of one's strength was extremely great once it was activated. Yet now, I've already stepped into the perfection stage of the 9th rank of Region Lords, and I'm much stronger than before. So the amplification effect of the devil ape's bloodline towards my strength is naturally not as obvious as it was in the past. The most direct effect of this is that while the improvement of one's cultivation is still the same after the bloodline is activated, the extent of it has decreased. It's far from what it used to be. Now that I've activated the ancient demonic ape bloodline, my strength has only increased by a small level. What about the 9 transformations of the demonic ape? Is it still possible to advance by a small level with each transformation? If this is still the case, then it won't be too disappointing. After all, with the addition of the devil ape's 5 transformations, when needed, my cultivation and strength can instantly increase by at least 6 small ranks. The further one goes, the stronger one's cultivation and strength will be. Usually, one small rank is very significant. 6. An instant increase of one's combat strength by a small rank is extremely impressive. As soon as he thought of this, he immediately shouted. 9 transformations of the demonic ape. First transformation. Along with Yi Xian's explosive roar, the size of the 30m tall ancient demonic ape suddenly increased while an indescribable bloodline energy instantly surged within its body, and it converged into a force that was like a tide. It greatly increased the vital blood and cultivation of the 3 true forms of the ancient demonic ape. In the blink of an eye, the 30m tall ancient demonic ape had directly risen to 300m tall. Cultivation strength. 2nd rank of the World Lord realm. 9 transformations of the demonic ape. 2nd transformation. After he shouted explosively for the 2nd time, a familiar feeling arose once more. The vital blood and energy within the 3 true forms surged once more, and it surpassed the 1st transformation. The ancient demonic ape was 300m tall during the 1st transformation, yet now, it had risen explosively to 3 kilometers tall. Cultivation strength. 3rd rank of the World Lord realm. At this point, there was no need to continue. He was already certain that the effect of the 9 transformations of the demonic ape hadn't changed. Every transformation would allow his cultivation to rise by a small rank. Now that Yi Xian had comprehended the 9 transformations of the demonic ape to the 5th transformation, This was equivalent to a 5 small rank increase in battle strength, and adding on the 1 small rank increase from activating the ancient demonic ape bloodline. If he needed it, his own battle strength could instantly rise by 6 small levels to reach Sector Lord level 6 from the peak of Domain Lord level 9. 6th rank of the World Lord realm at its strongest state? This is already the pinnacle of the middle stage of the World Lord realm, since that's the case. I'll break through another small rank. After figuring out all the problems, Yi Xian's eyes flashed with a bright light. He subconsciously clenched his fists as he muttered to himself, I only need one more small breakthrough. Then, when the Devil Ape's bloodline is activated, I will be able to use the 9 transformations of the Devil Ape to the 5th transformation. At that time, my cultivation will reach the Realm Master level. The 7th rank. Even though it's only a single rank of difference from the 6th rank of the World Lord realm, one is at the middle stage of the World Lord realm, while the other is at the late stage of the World Lord realm. Their combat strengths are completely different. Besides that, my current cultivation is at the peak of the 9th rank of the Region Lord realm under normal circumstances. I only need to break through a small rank before I'll be able to surmount an entire realm and reach the World Lord realm from the current peak of the Region Lord realm. This is even more significant. Any one of these points is worth me breaking through right now. Even though I've just experienced a great leap of an entire realm, if I don't hesitate to invest and exhaust my strength, then it's entirely possible to forcefully push my current cultivation up a small rank. I can do it. At the very least, it's worth a try for the sake of attaining a combat strength at the World Lord realm. When he spoke up to here, Yi Xian didn't hesitate any longer and directly deactivated the bloodline ability. Moreover, he struggled free from the ancient demonic ape bloodline state and returned to his human form. Just like before, he sat down cross-legged in the depths of the enormous liquid ball. Swish! 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 Yi Xian withdrew a huge amount of cultivation resources from the undying world within his body. Any single one of these resources would cause a stir and frenzy if placed in the outside world. Yet now, he'd practically spared no expense to withdraw them, and his objective was merely for the sake of breaking through a small rank. If news of this were to spread, then countless experts would beat their chests and stomp their feet. Natural chill nectar, nether furnace lotion, heavenly centipede venom and hellish ant elixir that had been refined by the Shenong blaze, 10 drops of evil liquid, 109th rank 9 colored star core quintessences, and a huge amount of 8-eyed silver crystals. Chapter 41:16. Yi Xian was very determined to break through the bottleneck, but he would be lying if he said that he wasn't nervous. It was because he hadn't refined the level 18 liquid at all. Ever since his cultivation of the ancient Dongshu chant was interrupted, he had been walking the path of body tempering by using the gene cultivation fluid. Although he had obtained the subsequent cultivation method of the ancient Dongshu chant, the cultivation method required comprehension, and the speed of improvement was slow. On the other hand, the path of body tempering was an evolutionary path. Once his body was strong enough, he would be able to break through the shackles of human potential in his body. Therefore, even after obtaining the subsequent techniques of the ancient Dongshu Sutra, Yi Xian had been practicing both martial arts, and his cultivation had always been in sync with his physical strength. But in fact, after so many times, there had only been one instance where a breakthrough in the cultivation of the cultivation method would lead to a breakthrough in the power of the qi and blood of the body. The rest were all through tempering the physical body, achieving a breakthrough in the realm using the power of the physical body's qi and blood, leading to a breakthrough in the cultivation of the cultivation method. For example, it was the same this time. He was trying to break through the bottleneck in seclusion, but he wasn't trying to comprehend the ancient Dongshu Sutra. Instead, he was trying to break through the bottleneck with his physical body as usual. However, the level 18 liquid was needed to break through from the State Lord level to the Sector Lord level. The level 16 liquid could create Star Lords. The level 17 liquid could create Realm Lords. The level 18 and level 19 liquids could create Realm Lords and Universe Lords. However, Yi Xian had the level 16 and level 17 liquids and had already made them. He had used the level 16 liquid when he broke through from the peak of the 9th rank of the Universe State to the 1st rank of the Star Lord level. As for the level 17 liquid, he didn't have time to use it at all before he jumped a major level and became a 9th rank Domain Lord from the 9th rank of the Star Lord level. That didn't make sense. Since he had been using gene cultivation liquids to strengthen his body, He had to use the level 17 liquid when he broke through from the 9th rank of the Star Lord level to the 1st rank of the Domain Lord level. The exception this time might have something to do with the massive amount of undying and indestructible biomass energy that Xian had just absorbed. However, this was a one-time exception. At the very least, while he was still inside the liquid sphere, the color of the liquid was already very faint, and he was basically unable to absorb the mysterious undying and indestructible biomass. In other words, it was impossible for Xian to break through to the Sector Lord realm from the peak of the 9th level of the Domain Lord realm like before, relying on an unexpected opportunity to break through in one go. He would most likely require a level 18 elixir used to create a Sector Lord. It was a pity that he didn't have any level 18 or level 19 liquid. Concocting these two top-grade liquid required all sorts of heaven and earth treasures. At the very least, he had to find a way to get them from the Sector Lord old monsters. He hadn't had the time to gather all of them yet. Without the level 18 elixir, this breakthrough was highly likely to fail. It was also because of this reason that Xian gritted his teeth and took out a terrifying amount of peak-grade resources from his undying world. Actually, even if this was the case, it could only be considered as an attempt, and whether it would succeed was still unknown. After an unknown amount of time, when the slight piercing pain in his body disappeared, and his cultivation level finally stopped rising, Xian's consciousness gradually became clear, and he opened his eyes. At this moment, the familiar sound of the system notification unexpectedly rang out in his mind once more. Ding! Congratulations, host. Ancient Dongshu Technique Breakthrough. Current Realm. Sector Lord Realm Level 1. Ding! Congratulations, host. Fleshly Body Blood Chi Breakthrough. Current Realm. Sector Lord Realm Level 1. Sector Lord Realm Level 1. Finally, he successfully broke through. Xian clenched his fists tightly, and at this moment, he had the urge to howl towards the sky. From a small core realm cultivator to a Sector Lord old monster, his cultivation level had crossed over 18 realms, and all of this was accomplished in a short span of 2 to 3 years. If it was before, even Xian himself would definitely not believe it, and wouldn't even dare to think about it. Today, he could finally be considered as a true expert. Moreover, on the surface, he was only a Sector Lord Level 1, but that wasn't even his true strength. Previously, when his main body was at the peak of the 9th level of the Domain Lord realm, his ancient ape demon bloodline true body strength was at the 1st level of the Sector Lord realm. Once he executed the 9 transformations of the devil ape and reached the 5th transformation, he would instantly reach the 6th level of the Sector Lord realm, and every transformation would raise his strength by a small level. Now that his original body's cultivation had broken through once again, he had finally stepped into the 1st level of the Realm Lord realm. In that case, after activating the Devil Ape's bloodline, Xian's cultivation in the 3-headed 6-armed ancient Devil Ape state would be able to reach the 2nd level of the Realm Lord realm. Once he entered the 5th transformation, his peak combat strength would reach the 7th level of the Sector Lord realm. The 7th level of the Sector Lord realm was the late stage of the Sector Lord realm, and it was completely different from the 6th level of the Sector Lord realm, which was the peak of the middle stage of the Sector Lord realm. If Xian's various treasures and powerful bloodline abilities were included, then he was completely confident that he could fight a middle or even late-stage undying expert head-on and defeat them. Even though he still couldn't fight a marquee-level expert, and he might even be beaten up, he had taken a huge step towards that level after all, and he was much, much closer. It could be said that his gains this time could be said to be unprecedented. In these few short hours, Xian had undergone a magnificent transformation that was almost like a complete rebirth. Just as Yang Kai's heart was surging with excitement, 3 cries of incomparable joy suddenly came from the right. These cries were not real voices, but divine sense voices. After all, he was still inside the sphere of liquid at this moment. Wow! It's so comfortable, simply 10,000 times more comfortable than soaking in the spirit spring. No, even if I add up all the spirit springs I've soaked in and multiply it by 10,000 times, it still won't be as comfortable as this. So what if it's comfortable? The key is the benefits. What kind of zombie poison disgusting pus is this? It's simply a peerless treasure of heaven and earth. I've cultivated for so many years, but I've never experienced such a delightful cultivation speed before. It's just like flying and it's going up. And it's not just in terms of cultivation technique. My physical body has clearly improved by a large amount too. Heavens! Is this the legendary dual cultivation of martial arts and martial arts? After soaking in the bath, our cultivation technique and physical body's chi and blood realm are actually synchronized. This is absolutely crushing those of the same level. The rhythm of those of the same level. Very clearly, these were the divine sense voices of the three girls, Purplish Warbler, Duanmu Xiaocha, and Zhao Qianru. From their words, it was obvious that the three girls had benefited a lot this time, and their voices were filled with a feeling of insanity. As these thoughts flashed through his mind, Yi Xian subconsciously extended a strand of divine sense to check the current cultivation level of the three girls. Chapter 41:17. Even Yi Xian was quite shocked when he saw how strong the Purplish Warbler, Duanmu Xiaocha and Zhao Qianru had become. It was because the three of them had been in the cosmic state, the 14th level, while the Star-Lord state was the 16th. There was a 15th level in between, the Cosmo state, which they had skipped. Yi Xian had only skipped one level, but the three girls had all skipped 2 levels. They weren't even in the Cosmo state before, but they were already Star-Lords at the moment. Moreover, these three girls had only been at the cosmic light realm in the past. They had not taken the path of body tempering. Therefore, the realm of their chi and blood power had not even reached the cosmic light realm. However, not only had they become Star-Lords at the moment, they were also Star-Lords who practiced both martial arts and martial arts at the same time. They would have crushed any Star-Lords of the same level. Their gains were definitely greater than those of Yi Xian. However, it was quite normal. After all, the three girls had been weak to begin with, yet they had jumped into the giant ball of liquid undying biomass almost at the same time as Yi Xian. Now that all of the special biomass energy had been completely absorbed, even if Yi Xian might have obtained more, Shen Yuanziying and the other two girls obviously didn't absorb much either. It was quite understandable that they had become Star-Lords in one fell swoop. Oh, I think someone scanned us with their divine senses. The scent is quite familiar. It's that big bad guy over there. Oh no, he's spying on us. That guy is really bad. He's so impatient. We're all clothed, yet he's still peeping. He's really desperate. But, Sister Ziying, Sister Qianru, I think we're taking a bath with him. Does it really matter if he's watching us? Ah, I almost forgot. Damn it. Why are we here? He's taking advantage of us. We're taking a bath with that bad guy. It's going to be so embarrassing. Let's go. Hardly had Yi Xian retracted his divine senses when the three girls, who had been excited for a moment, turned their attention to their current situation. They murmured to each other, but the Purplish Warbler and Zhao Qianru lost their minds because Duanmu Xiaocha hadn't warned them properly. Nianji shrieked. Hiu! Hiu hiu! Very quickly the sound of water splashing rang out. The three girls were clearly dressed properly, but their reactions were as if they were soaking with Yi Xian. They screamed as they fled in panic. Their figures shot out, and in the blink of an eye, they rushed out of the large ball of liquid that was no longer colorful. Seeing this scene, Yi Xian's face darkened, indicating that he'd received 10,000 points of damage. However, there was nothing he could do when facing these three girls. He could only shake his head and bitterly smile. His figure flashed as he rushed out as well. Heavenly River Star, in the cosmic void outside the atmosphere. In fact, by now, the unexpected zombie upheaval that had shocked the three main dimensions of the starry skies had finally come to an end. Even the triumphant fleet, which Naples had sent to the interior of Heavenly River Star to conduct a final search and complete disinfection, had now sailed out of Heavenly River Star one after another and stopped in the cosmic void near the atmosphere. 4 to 6 hours had passed since the clean-up fleet entered the interior of Heavenly River Star. At this time, the large number of starships that had been waiting around the void, as well as the starry sky masters standing in the cosmic void with their physical bodies, began to whisper to each other again after a long silence. Of course, the object of their discussion was still the giant liquid ball that was dozens of miles in diameter. 12 to 14 hours have passed. Do we still have to wait like this? Why don't we go in and see if the 4 of them are still there? What do you mean by still there? Don't you see that the 4 of them are sitting cross-legged in the giant liquid ball? Several hours have passed. The colorful liquid has become extremely clear, and the 4 of them are clearly visible. More importantly, I don't know if they're still breathing. It's probably going to be a close call. The giant liquid ball with a diameter of several dozen miles has turned from its original rainbow color to its current clear as water. It's obvious that all of the zombie poison has been absorbed by them. Even if they're still breathing, they're probably not human anymore. They're definitely cosmic zombies. Now that you mention it, that's really the case. Look, those 3 girls are moving. Zombies! They're definitely zombies. Hiss. Star-Lords? Weren't the three girls in the cosmic state when they went in? How did they break through 2 major levels in only a few hours? How is that possible? They're definitely zombies. Damn! The one behind them was even stronger. She was only a Star-Lord when she went in, and she's already a Sector Lord when she came out a few hours later. Who else could have improved so quickly? Kill them! Kill them immediately! As these cries of surprise rang out, the surrounding space quickly became lively again. There were even people who started to clamor for Xianxia and the three girls to attack. However, most of the experts in the starry sky were still biding their time, but their faces were full of vigilance and suspicion. Obviously, they were unwilling to accept such a reality. It was too shocking that the #1 genius in the world had become a zombie in the universe. Bull*T. Who's a cosmic zombie? I'll blow him up if he keeps yelling. The elephant fox Sable's expression instantly darkened. The power of his cultivation spread out, and with a single shout, the pressure of the immortal realm old monster filled the entire space. The starry sky experts that were clamoring to suppress Xianxia instantly felt as if their necks had been grabbed, and the words in their mouths abruptly stopped. At this moment, after Xianxia rushed out of the giant liquid ball, he withdrew the layer of Shenong's 7-colored flames that wrapped around the giant liquid ball and returned it to the Shenong cauldron. Then, he waved his hand again and put the Shenong cauldron back into his undying world. Walala! As the Shenong's 7-colored flames on the surface were removed, the liquid ball that had lost its support instantly dispersed. It turned into an extremely clear liquid that floated in the void of the universe. Compared to the colorful zombie pus and the colorful puddles that had been refined by the Shenong flames, the liquid was as pure as water. Not only was it free of zombie venom, it was even drinkable. Chapter 41:18. The Star State experts in the void finally realized what was going on. They noticed that Xianxia, the purplish warbler, Duanmu Xiaocha and Zhao Qianru hadn't been infected by the so-called zombie virus. When he thought about it carefully, he realized that when the liquid was still zombie poison and disgusting pus, its color was very obvious and colorful, which made people's scalps tingle. However, later, Xianxia extracted a large cluster of mysterious flames from the Shenong cauldron and refined the liquid ball, which had already been condensed to a diameter of 100 kilometers. The color of the giant liquid ball changed again. It changed from the previous colorful color to the later 7 colors. Although it was still mottled, it was no longer that disgusting color. Instead, it gave people a dreamy feeling of jewels and treasures. At that time, more than half of the giant liquid ball with a diameter of 100 kilometers had been refined, leaving only 30 to 40 kilometers in diameter. It was obvious that the zombie toxins and pus in the liquid had been completely removed at that time. If that wasn't the case, Xianxia wouldn't have jumped in without the slightest hesitation. It meant that when Xianxia jumped into the liquid ball, it was no longer zombie venom and disgusting pus inside, but some kind of cultivation resource that had been refined with such a thing. As for Xianxia and the 3 girls who jumped in later on, the reason why their cultivations had improved so much in such a short period of time was because Xianxia himself had risen from the Star-Lord realm to the Realm Lord realm. The 3 girls had advanced from the cosmic state to the Star-Lord state. Almost all of them had crossed the chasm of 2 major levels. The real reason for that was the colorful, mysterious resources and materials that had been inside the liquid ball. Unfortunately, those resources and materials had long since disappeared. It was precisely because of this that this huge liquid ball had turned into pure water. Countless people in the surrounding void were pounding their chests and stomping their feet when they realized that. Damn it! Just now, I missed an opportunity to become a Star-Lord instantly. Yes. The lucky girl. No, the lucky guy waved at me and kindly reminded me to come with you. However, I still missed it because of my hesitation. What's wrong with you? After all, you're still hesitating. I'm Xianxia's die-hard fan. Just now when he waved his hand, I already took a step forward, but in the end, I was pulled back by that guy. What zombie poison? Tell me not to go. Where's the guy pulling people? Hurry up and come out. I promise I won't kill you. Ha! Star-Lord. My Shenyuan family's little Ziying has actually become a Star-Lord monster. Waha, the 2 of them have a telepathic connection. Everyone else was hesitating, but this old man's good granddaughter rushed out without hesitation. Even if it was zombie poison, she was not afraid of it. That's so touching. Old man Shenyuan, do you have any shame? What couple? Love is stronger than gold? Little friend Yi is clearly our Xiaocha's. He's my future grandson-in-law. Oh, old man Zhao, why did you pull my beard? You want to steal my grandson-in-law, so what's the big deal about pulling a few strands of your beard? Didn't you see my little Qian jump in as well? She and little friend Yi are true love. Damn it! Where did these three crazy old men come from? They didn't get the opportunity themselves, but they won't even let the little girl go. Can they be any more shameless than that? Yi Xian's face gradually darkened when he saw the purplish warbler's grandfather and two other old men, who were suspected to be Duanmu Xiaocha and Zhao Qianru's grandson-in-law, arguing that he was their grandson-in-law. After fighting in front of countless experts of the starry sky, Yi Xian was so shocked that his entire body trembled. His face, which had just darkened, turned green again. Looks like this really isn't a place to stay for long. It's better to leave quickly. At the very least, I should avoid this scene. Otherwise, it would really be troublesome if those three shameless old geezers couldn't come to a conclusion and came before me to seek confirmation face to face. No matter what answer he gave, the purplish warbler's three little girls would bear a grudge against him. As for not saying anything and keeping silent, sorry, it would be even worse. Thinking of this, Yi Xian suddenly lost his composure. He hurriedly activated the cultivation in his body and said loudly, "Everyone, this is the end. This matter is over, and Yi Xian will leave." For the last time, although this prince's press conference is just a cover, the ultimate goal is to confuse the universe zombies on the Sky River planet and take advantage of their unpreparedness to lay down a large number of troops and annihilate them in one fell swoop. However, everything Yi Xian had said before was true. The name of Prince Xian, please don't mention it again in the future. I am me. I am Yi Xian. Goodbye. After saying that, Yi Xian didn't stay any longer. He turned around and rushed toward the star passage in the Sky River planet's atmosphere behind him. The reason why he didn't leave this star sector directly but went to the Sky River planet was because there was still a zombified superbrain waiting for him to collect. Now that the Sky River planet had been taken over by the victorious return army under the command of Naples, the star passage in the atmosphere was heavily guarded, so there was no need to worry that the universe masters behind him would swarm up and follow him. As Yi Xian's figure disappeared and entered the star passage in the Sky River planet's atmosphere, the countless universe masters in the surrounding void were stunned for a moment. Then, they began to talk again. Previously, because of the sudden appearance of the universe's zombies, they had all forgotten about the prince's press conference this time. However, at this moment, after hearing Yi Xian's reminder, everyone recalled everything that had happened before the zombies appeared, including how Yi Xian had waved his hand and summoned the Medicine King's divine cauldron during the battle with the zombie emperor Tuoba Linfeng. For a moment, almost all eyes were on the three immortal realm masters, Long Shantang, Gong Huaji, and the elephant fox Martin. There was a strange look in their eyes as they whispered to each other. These three old men had come this time to represent the two major camps of the human race, as well as the headquarters of the Wanluo Federation. Originally, they had said that they were going to bring Prince Xian back to the immortal planet. However, now it seemed that Yi Xian clearly didn't have this intention. Not only did he not plan to return to the immortal planet, but from his tone, it was clear that he didn't plan to use the identity of Prince Xian in the future. Thinking about it, it made sense. The other party was a group of 7 freaks. Aside from Prince Xian, the other 6 were all freakishly talented existences. Such heaven-defying talents were simply unprecedented, and there would be no one like them in the future. Was there a need to curry favor with an undying dynasty? Chapter 41:19. Among the 4 immortal realm old monsters, Old Ghost Mosquito Butcher was the least responsive to the whispers. He turned to look at the other 3 and snorted coldly. With a flash of his body, he also rushed toward the star passage in the atmosphere of the Sky River planet behind him. He disappeared in the blink of an eye. The elephant fox ferret, Long Shantang, and Gong Huaji looked at each other with strange expressions. Considering the identities of the 3 of them, as well as the purpose of their visit to Sky River planet, their current situation was so awkward that it could not get any more awkward. When had the immortal old monsters ever encountered such an awkward situation? In particular, there were countless human clan Starry Sky experts and people of the Federation in the surrounding void. Almost all of them were looking at them with strange eyes and talking to each other. The 3 old guys felt as if there was a knife on their back. They could not leave, nor could they stay, nor could they follow them into the heavenly river planet. They were so depressed. Of course, the elephant fox ferret was just pretending to be depressed. However, his acting was only 60% or 70%, and the other 30% or 40% of his depression was real. But this depression was not because of the awkward situation he was in now. He had already surrendered to Yi Xian, so even if he was a member of Yi Xian's camp, it was the Wan Luo Federation that was embarrassed. It had nothing to do with him. The reason he was depressed was that he was so regretful that his intestines were turning green. Just now, Yi Xian had leaped into the giant ball of liquid and waved his hand to say that he wanted to come together. After hearing those words, his heart was moved and he almost rushed out. Unfortunately, he was one step too slow. By the time the three girls rushed into the giant liquid ball and he was about to take a step forward, Old Ghost Mosquito Butcher had already warned him. It was impossible for him to get a share of the loot. For him, this was definitely a painful loss of good fortune. In that liquid ball with a diameter of 30 to 40 miles, there was obviously a huge amount of mysterious resources. Although he had the foundation of the middle stage of the immortal realm, it was impossible for him to directly cross a big realm. But even if it was just a small breakthrough, it was still possible. After all, under normal circumstances, it was impossible for him to cultivate from the middle stage of the immortal realm to the late stage of the immortal realm without hundreds or thousands of years. Thousands of years of cultivation had been lost because of a moment of hesitation. If this happened to anyone, they would probably regret it for a long time. In addition to the elephant fox ferret, the other two immortal old monsters, Gonghuaji, who represented the Tenju celestial palaces, was not so bad. Tang, who represented the immortal dynasty at this time, was so ashamed that his whole face was like a monkey's face. How could he not be ashamed? Previously, when Yi Xian was in the devil domain, he had taken the initiative to propose an alliance with the human clan. The human clan included the immortal dynasty and the 10 extreme heavenly palaces, but Yi Xian had mentioned this alliance to him. He was looking for the immortal dynasty, not the 10 extreme heavenly palaces. This showed that Yi Xian still cared about the inexplicable friendship with the dynasty, even if the dynasty directly sent him to the death celestial palaces after he arrived at the immortal star. However, in the face of Yi Xian's good intentions, Tang Long refused without hesitation, and even mocked him, saying that Yi Xian was arrogant and conceited. In the end, not long after that, he had become the owner of the great providence of the current world. Furthermore, he had directly revealed his true identity as one of the 7 freaks. However, he had nothing to do with the everlasting dynasty anymore. This was more than a slap in the face. It was simply a slap in the face. Even if Tang Long's face was thick, he could not sit still at this moment. According to his temperament, in such an embarrassing situation, he was afraid that he would have turned around and left in shame. However, he came here on behalf of the entire dynasty. Now that things had developed into such an embarrassing situation, it was impossible for anyone from the dynasty to be willing to come over and deal with his mess. This matter. Therefore, even if he was ashamed, Tang Long could only pinch his nose and accept it. He braced himself and stayed to deal with the aftermath of this matter. At the very least, the relationship with Yi Xian had to be repaired. Yi Xian now represented the great luck of the 3 main planes of the sky. In the face of the great calamity that was about to befall the untainted world, this kind of fate attribute factor was too important, and related to the fate of a clan. The survival of the clan was not up to him to not be cautious. With each of them in mind, the elephant fox ferret, Tang Long Shan, Gong Hua, and the 3 immortal old monsters all turned around and returned to the flagship fortresses of their respective fleets. Although the current Sky River star was controlled by the zombie superbrain, and there was no regional star network signal, the star network signal of the small country still covered the star field. It was just that the signal was slightly weaker, but with this level of connection, they could contact the dynasty immortal star. There was no problem at all, as well as the headquarters of the Tenju heavenly palaces of the cultivation camp, Tianju Palace. The 3 old fogies hurriedly returned to their respective flagship fortresses to seek the opinions of the higher-ups behind them. Of course, everything that happened here had long been known to the 3 main planes of the sky. The previous prince's press conference was broadcasted live to the 3 main planes of the sky. Although the universe zombies in the Sky River star had appeared out of nowhere, causing a huge commotion and shocking changes, the major star media fortresses in the surrounding void that were responsible for the live broadcast did not stop at all. Work, struggle on the front line, and all the scenes were transmitted out. Putting aside Gong Hua of the Tenju heavenly palaces and the elephant fox ferret of the myriad Luo Federation, Tang Long Shan, who represented the immortal dynasty, immediately contacted the Imperial Court's dormitory elder pavilion as soon as he entered the flagship fortress. The changes that happened this time were too shocking. The entire Imperial Court's dormitory elder pavilion was in a complete mess, and the holographic three-dimensional image in front of him was in chaos. After receiving the communication signal sent by Tang Longshan, the holographic three-dimensional image flashed, and the image that appeared in Tang Longshan's sight was actually an immortal emperor of the dynasty who had not been born for a long time. He was so scared that he almost fell to the ground. Little Tang, I already know everything that happened over there. Now the entire dormitory elder pavilion is in chaos. You guys handled this matter too much. Didn't you get any news beforehand? Such a great person of great fortune was actually pushed to the opposite side of the Imperial Court by you guys. Are you all King useless? Chapter 41-20. After passing through the star passage in the atmosphere and entering the interior of the heavenly river star, Xianxia stood high in the sky, looking at the familiar heavenly river star. At this moment, it was cold and cheerless, and it was rare to see a few figures. He couldn't help but shake his head and smile bitterly. He still had some feelings for the heavenly river star. After entering the starry sky, the heavenly river star was the first planet with life he came into contact with. Moreover, even Xianxia's Federation identity and interstellar mercenary status were registered here. Including the 2 times he appeared out of nowhere and shocked the 3 main dimensions of the starry sky, it was also here. This time, he came to the heavenly river star and took the initiative to reveal his identity. Although he ended the past with Prince Xian, it didn't mean that the special situation he had with the heavenly river star was buried in the past as well. Furthermore, this was the closest life star to the 9 heavenly star. The 9 heavenly star was located in an extremely secluded corner of the universe. The edge of the 9 heavenly star was very long and was shrouded in a unique fog. Hence, it had not been discovered until now. However, with the arrival of the great desolate world, it was only a matter of time before the 9 heavenly stars were exposed. Standing in the sky above the heavenly river star, Xian was in a daze for a moment. These thoughts flashed through his mind, and he felt inexplicably emotional. After a long time, he shook his head with a bitter smile. Whether it was the 9 heaven star or the ancient planet he came from, he couldn't search for them or care about them. He only needed to know that they were safe for the time being. What he needed to do now was to become stronger, and constantly stronger. Facing the prehistoric world that would arrive at any time, his current cultivation level of the Sector Lord realm was too weak. After shaking his head and temporarily shaking off the feelings in his mind, Xian's figure flashed and landed on the main continent of the heavenly river star below. Here, the heavenly river city stood at the edge of the main continent, facing the sea. Originally, it was a magnificent scene, but now, there were only a few figures. Only the experts of the victorious return army, who were in charge of taking over this place, occasionally came and went. Following Xian's arrival, Naples, who was the first to enter the heavenly river planet, quickly rushed over. Young master, the entire heavenly river planet has been searched and cleaned up. There are no remnants of the zombie poison, including the zombie lair at the military base in the depths of the heavenly river sea. It seems that in this short period of time, under the carpet search of a large number of victorious return legion experts, Tuoba Lin Feng's hiding place on the Sky River Star was finally found. This kid really knows how to hide. He actually hid in a military base in the depths of the sea. As the secret base of the heavenly river planet's garrison, there must have been a large array formation set up to conceal his aura. It's the best place to hide. Why didn't I think of it before? Hearing Naples' words, Xian immediately came to a realization and laughed involuntarily. There is no other discovery in that secret military base. After all, Tuoba Lin Feng has decided to fully evacuate. After that, the heavenly river star will be searched thoroughly. There is no point in leaving behind any backup arrangements. It can't be hidden. There is no point. Taking over the conversation, Naples continued. Right now, the only thing left in the entire heavenly river star is the central control room of the heavenly river star network. It has been checked. The superbrain, which is the intelligence center of the heavenly river star network, is still there. It has indeed been zombified. However, for some reason, it died because of the execution of Tuoba Lin Feng. Now, it is under our control. This is a bit strange. Hearing Naples' reminder, Xian exclaimed in surprise. Tuoba Lin Feng is the source of the poison for this universe's zombie race. The entire universe's zombie race is derived from his bloodline. Once he dies, all the zombies will explode at the same time. This is the reason why all the zombies will be damaged. This should be determined by some special characteristics of the universe's zombie virus. Previously, after Tuoba Lin Feng was killed, all the universe's zombies exploded and died in an instant, including the 4 zombie behemoths that had evolved to the middle stage of the immortal realm by devouring each other. However, this zombified superbrain was left unscathed. This matter is indeed a bit strange. Take me to see it. Naples nodded and didn't say much. He turned around and led the way. After a while, he brought Yi Xian to the central control room of the Heavenly River Star Network under the Star-Lord Mansion. In his line of sight there was a thing about the size of a human head. It looked like a mollusk, but it had no head or face. It was more like the legendary Taisui fungus. It was quietly lying in a culture tank that had been set up with restrictions. This thing was blue with a hint of red in it. It looked a little strange. At this time, it seemed to have sensed someone's arrival. It trembled slightly, causing the light blue gene culture fluid that it was soaking in to ripple slightly. This thing was the superbrain that acted as the intelligence center of the Heavenly River Star Network. Of course, it was an ordinary superbrain, unlike the 2 superbrains in the Immortal Star and Tianji City, which were top-level superbrains at the immortal level. However, although this superbrain's level was ordinary, it was estimated that there was no other superbrain like it in the 3 main planes of the universe today. It was absolutely unique. Because it had been zombified, and strangely, it didn't die out because of the execution of the emperor of this universe's zombie population. Perhaps it was because of the superbrain's unique characteristics. Because the superbrain wasn't a real living body at all. In some aspects, it was similar to the commonly known Taisui fungus. It was between living matter and non-living matter. Perhaps this was why, although it had been zombified, it didn't die out because of the execution of the emperor of this universe's zombie population. Of course, this was only Yi Xian's guess. Whether or not this was the truth would require further research and exploration before he could confirm. However, this matter might be a headache for others. They would need to carefully research, analyze, and even deduce it time and time again. However, it wasn't a problem for Yi Xian at all. With the devouring system in his body, solving this kind of problem was a piece of cake. At this time, just as Yi Xian was about to contact the devouring system in his body and use it to investigate the zombified superbrain in front of him and find out what was wrong with it, a familiar system notification suddenly sounded in his mind. Ding! Congratulations to the host. You have discovered a mutant superbrain. Do you want to start devouring it immediately? Hint. There is a certain risk in devouring it. If it succeeds, the growth-level immortal superbrain, which is the main control center of the system's personal communication system, will most likely enter the mature stage. If it fails, the consequences are unknown. Chapter 41-21. A mutant superbrain? Devour? A growth-level immortal superbrain that was the main control center of the system's personal communication system could possibly enter the mature stage? When these words flashed through Yi Xian's mind, a look of shock immediately appeared on his face. He knew very well how difficult it was to evolve a Starry Sky superbrain. Otherwise, the 3 Starry Sky main planes wouldn't only have 2 mature immortal-grade Starry Sky superbrains after so many years of development. One of them was on the Immortal Planet, the intelligence center of the Immortal Dynasty and the Myriad Net Federation star network. The other was in Tianji City, the headquarters of the Tianji clan. It was the intelligence center of the Tianji fortress that had disappeared and whose whereabouts were unknown. As for Yi Xian, he originally only had a fragment of an immortal-level superbrain. It was precisely because of this fragment that Yi Xian was able to activate the personal star communication system attached to the devouring system in his body. After activating the personal communication system, Yi Xian was like carrying an interstellar network with him everywhere he went. Even if he didn't have a battleship or any other modern technological equipment, he could still connect to nearby administrative planets through the personal communication system attached to the system in his body when he was alone in the universe. To the interstellar network, however, even though Yi Xian had invested a huge amount of rare resources to help this immortal superbrain evolve, it had only entered the mature stage from its previous fragmented state. It was still a long way from the final mature stage. Right now, the opportunity to make this immortal-level superbrain that had just entered the growth stage evolve and break through to the mature stage was right in front of them. It would be a lie to say that Yi Xian wasn't moved. Although the Starry Sky superbrain in his hand was no longer a fragment after Yi Xian invested a large amount of resources into nurturing it, it was a complete immortal-level Starry Sky superbrain. However, the difference between an immortal superbrain in the mature stage and the mature stage was huge. It wasn't that big of a difference, But it wasn't that big of a difference. Let me give you a simple example. Currently, the immortal grade superbrain in Yi Xian's hands was in its growth stage. If Yi Xian needed it, he could activate the personal intergalactic communication system attached to the devouring system in his body. The furthest he could go would allow him to silently connect to the Imperial Star Sector network in the Heavenly Dark Empire. This was the limit, and he had to take a certain risk. If he left a trace in the Imperial Star Sector network of the Heavenly Dark Empire, it would attract the attention of the mature immortal star superbrain on the undying star of the dynasty. Once the other party followed the clues, it was very likely that they would be able to locate Yi Xian and confirm that the immortal grade superbrain in its growth stage was with him. Although it couldn't take it away, it could keep a close eye on Yi Xian in the dark. The next time Yi Xian used the star communication system, it could invade the network of another star field. In that case, the mature starry sky superbrain of the undying star of the Imperial Court would be able to quickly move out and track it down like a melon. It would directly devour Yi Xian's immortal-level starry sky superbrain. It could even invade the devouring system in Yi Xian's body and make some changes. None of this could be completely ruled out. It was for this reason that Yi Xian rarely used the personal intergalactic communication system attached to the devouring system in his body when he was in the first and third universes. He would try not to use it if he could. The reason was that he was afraid of being discovered by the two mature superbrains on the Undying Star and Tianji City. However, if the immortal grade superbrain in Yi Xian's hands wasn't in its growth stage but had already reached its mature stage, then the situation would be completely different. First of all, if Yi Xian needed it, after he activated the personal intergalactic communication system, the distance of the star sector network he could access would be maximized. It would be easy for him to reach the Imperial Star of the Heavenly Dark Empire. Even if he didn't dare to say that it covered the entire third universe, he could definitely connect to the dynasty's main network on the Undying Star through the personal intergalactic communication system in his body from the Heavenly River Star. Moreover, even if he did that, Yi Xian wouldn't have to worry about being discovered by the mature immortal-grade superbrain on the dynasty's Undying Star superbrain like he was now. Both of them were in their mature stage and were immortal-grade superbrains. The question of who would devour who no longer existed. In other words, under such circumstances, even if Yi Xian wanted to search for some information and data from the Undying Star Dynasty's main network or the Myriad Net Federation's Central Networks database, he wouldn't have to be like before and now, where he had a plan but didn't dare to put it into action. He could just invade directly. Even if he was discovered by the mature immortal-grade superbrain on the Undying Star, he could at most compete with them. As long as they were of the same level, there was nothing he could do if the other party couldn't devour him. Right now, I'm only at the Sector Lord realm. Once I break through to the Universe realm, I'll have to gather a large amount of natural treasures and rare resources to refine the level 19 liquid. I'm really in urgent need of information. It's too important. Various thoughts flashed through his mind as Yi Xian muttered to himself. The light in his eyes gradually became firm. Besides, the chaos of the Great Desolate Era can descend at any time. I don't have much time left. I have to increase my cultivation as quickly as possible. This also requires strength and power. I have to be strong enough to support. If that's the case, this opportunity has come at the right time. It's like giving me a pillow when I'm about to fall asleep. I'm really unwilling to miss this opportunity. At this point, Yi Xian suddenly clenched his right fist and finally made a decision. Although the consequences of failing to devour are unknown, it sounds a little scary. If I succeed, the rewards will be so great that I can't refuse. Besides, there's already a 60% chance of success. No matter what, I'll go all out. After saying that, he didn't hesitate anymore. He immediately gave an affirmative reply to the devouring system in his body and started devouring the mutant-grade superbrain in front of him right away. Whoosh! Just as Yi Xian decided to take the risk and gave the devouring system in his body the command, a faint sound of something breaking through the air was heard. The mutant-grade superbrain in the culture tank in front of him instantly disappeared. Obviously, it had been forcefully devoured by the devouring system in Yi Xian's body and absorbed into his body. Chapter 41-22. In his mind, the system notification of the devouring progress kept ringing. Yi Xian's heart also gradually rose to his throat as the number of system notifications increased. The devouring progress was very slow. It was obvious that the devouring system in Yi Xian's body was not very relaxed when it came to devouring this mutant-grade ordinary galactic superbrain. This situation immediately made Yi Xian's heart sink even more. He was afraid that an unforeseen accident would happen. After a full hour, the system notification of the devouring progress in his mind finally ended. However, what made Yi Xian dumbfounded was that the devouring progress had already reached 100. But the result of the devouring this time was still uncertain whether it was a success or a failure. This was because he soon heard a different system notification. After completing the devouring of this mutant-grade ordinary galactic superbrain, the immortal-grade galactic superbrain in Yi Xian's personal galactic communication system actually entered hibernation. As for whether the devouring result was a success or a failure, it would have to wait until it finished its hibernation and woke up again before it could be determined. What made him even more speechless was that this so-called hibernation did not have a time limit. The time estimate given by the system was still unknown. In other words, its hibernation could be just for one night, or it could be 8 to 10 years. This time, Yi Xian was dumbfounded. He was not in a hurry to do anything with the upgraded personal galactic communication system, but the key was that this matter was of great importance. Whether the devouring result this time was a success or a failure, his heart was already in his throat. In the end, after waiting for so long, this was the situation. His heart that was in his throat would not be able to calm down for a while. Who knew how long it would last? This was simply tormenting people, causing Yi Xian to feel like he was about to go crazy. Unfortunately, at this point, no matter how crazy he was, it would not change anything. With a helpless smile, Yi Xian could only force himself to calm down. After a while, he walked out of the underground galactic network central control center with a gloomy expression. As soon as they returned to the ground, Naples, who had left first, came up to them with a strange look on his face. Before Yi Xian could ask, he said, "Young master, Sky River Planet Superbrain has turned into a zombie. It seems that we have to find a way to buy another one." "What do you mean?" When Yi Xian heard this, he was stunned and felt a little confused. He naturally understood what Naples meant. Administrative planets like the Sky River planet required a superbrain to act as the central intelligence of the star web. Even if the one on the Sky River planet had not been devoured by Yi Xian, it was obviously useless. It had already turned into a zombie and mutated. Who could use it? Rest assured? The reason why Yi Xian was stunned was because he didn't think that this was a problem that he or Naples should consider. The Sky River star belonged to an immortal dynasty, so why bother? Even if they wanted to purchase a new normal superbrain, it was the Eternal Dynasty's business. We have already helped them get rid of such a big tumor like the universe zombies hibernating here. Is that not enough? We have even helped them clean up the interior of the Sky River planet. Now we even have to buy a superbrain to help them replace it. Who do they think they are? If the Sky River planet did not belong to us, we would naturally not have to care about this kind of thing. A superbrain is not something that can be found easily. Over the years, every force in the 3 main galactic planes needs a superbrain on every administrative planet. Over the years, almost every time a superbrain is found, it will be acquired by other forces. Naples obviously understood why Yi Xian was stunned. He immediately shook his head and smiled bitterly. But even so, in the 3 main galactic planes, every force has more or less some administrative planets. There is no internal galactic network of the administrative planets at all, because there is no way to get a galactic network. The Central Galactic Superbrain. However, we can't ignore the fact that the Sky River planet needs a new superbrain. Because you are now the master of the Sky River planet. To be precise, you are the private owner of the Sky River planet. Call yourself the master of the planet, call yourself the master of the planet, or even call yourself the king. As long as you are willing, you can do whatever you want. This news was even more surprising. Yi Xian's eyes widened in an instant. Ha! What's going on? I just received the news. Naples continued to explain. Just now, the immortal-level elder Long Shantang from the Eternal Dynasty made a public announcement in the cosmic void outside the Sky River planet's atmosphere. He announced on behalf of the Eternal Dynasty that in view of the young masters help to solve the problem of the universe zombies for the human race and the Wanluo Federation, there is a huge hidden danger in the Sky River planet's bright starry sky. Therefore, the upper echelons of the Imperial Dynasty unanimously decided to transfer the ownership of the Sky River planet to you, young master. From now on, this life planet is no longer one of the administrative planets of a small country under the Eternal Dynasty. It has become private property and belongs to you alone. So generous? As soon as he heard that it was as he had guessed, Yi Xian's eyes widened even more. Such a thing had never happened in the history of the Eternal Dynasty. In the third universe, within the starry sky territory of the Eternal Dynasty, although there were countless life planets, they were divided into 3 empires. Under these 3 empires, there were hundreds and thousands of big countries. Under each big country, there were even more small countries. Under each small country, there were administrative planets. However, although these life planets belonged to small countries, big countries, or empires in terms of administration, in terms of ownership without exception, they all belonged to the Eternal Dynasty. Even the princes of the Imperial Dynasty, the upper echelons of the Imperial Dynasty, and the elders did not have a life planet that belonged to them. This kind of situation was strictly forbidden in the Eternal Dynasty. Even if they were extremely powerful existences, even if they were immortal old monsters, at most, they would only have some mineral planets and abandoned planets that were not life planets. But now, the Eternal Dynasty had directly gifted a life planet to Xianxia. Moreover, it was a life planet like the Sky River planet, which was quite enviable in terms of geographical location and wealth. Although it was given in the name of a reward on the surface, anyone could see that this was clearly a signal from the Imperial Dynasty to Xianxia to repair their relationship. The upper echelons of the Imperial Dynasty on the Eternal Star were probably green with regret at this moment. It was not an exaggeration to say that they were pounding their chests. Now, they wanted to use this method to pull their relationship with Xianxia back into the honeymoon period. Chapter 41-23. When Xianxia came out of the star passage in the atmosphere of Sky River Planet, a new press conference had already begun in the void of the universe outside the atmosphere. Although the organizer of this press conference was no longer Xianxia, but the 2 human camps in the myriad Luo Federation, the ones who presided over the press conference were the 3 immortal realm old monsters, Long Shan, Gong Huaji, and the elephant fox ferret. However, in fact, everyone knew that although the organizer was not Xianxia, the real protagonist of this press conference was still him. This was because the theme of the press conference had always been about Xianxia. In the void, the Federation citizens and experts from all over the universe did not leave. They had originally come from all over to watch Prince Xian. Although Prince Xian was gone now, Xianxia had appeared out of nowhere. He had gone from being one of the 2 great monsters to being one of the 7 great monsters. He was even more heaven-defying. He was still an idol. Moreover, the enthusiasm of his fans was even higher than before. They were also more enthusiastic. Before this, those who could rush to the Sky River sector in such a situation were definitely people who liked to join in the fun, if not fanatical fans. And now, the Sky River sector had just experienced such a shocking change. Billions of people were watching from the 3 main planes of the universe. Now that the crisis had been completely eliminated, the next step was to celebrate. Under such circumstances, whether it was fanatical fans or people who liked to join in the fun, it was obviously impossible for them to leave. In fact, not only were they unable to leave, but countless experts and citizens of the Federation were also rushing over from the 3 main planes of the universe. Even some itinerant cultivators from the races of the second universe and the first universe's myriad races Federation. On the rostrum of the press conference, the 3 immortal old monsters, Elephant Fox Martin, Gong Huaji, and Long Shan, sat side by side. However, the one who spoke at this moment was Long Shan. In fact, he was the only one working hard at this press conference. The Elephant Fox Martin was the representative of the myriad Luo Federation, and Gong Huaji was the representative of the Tenju Celestial Palace. However, the Sky River planet that was rewarded to Xianxia at this press conference belonged to the immortal dynasty of the human race's science and technology camp. Therefore, the most suitable person to speak was Long Shan, who represented the immortal dynasty. In fact, even if that was not the case, this old man would most likely jump up and down on his own accord to perform. Because of everything that happened before, especially the fact that Xianxia was forced to leave the dynasty, the emperors of the Imperial Elder Pavilion were all alarmed. They even seemed to have pinned the blame on Long Shan. Now, the undying emperor had said that he would give up the heavenly river star, which was of great strategic importance, and give it to Xianxia as a reward. This was clearly giving Long Shan a chance. If he didn't grasp this opportunity well, he would most likely be punished when he returned. He didn't want to bear the wrath of an emperor. Just the thought of it was enough to make him shudder. That was why Long Shan was so shameless at this moment, as if he was singing praises. He was talking non-stop on the rostrum of the press conference. Not to mention Xianxia, the person involved, even the 2 immortal elders, the Elephant Fox Martin and Gong Huaji, who were sitting on Long Shantang's left and right. Strange, it was as if they were sitting on needles, their faces constipated. If it wasn't for the fact that he was the center of attention, he would have gotten up and left long ago. Long Shan-Tang's goal was actually very simple. He didn't dare say that he would immediately make Yi Xian change his mind and return to the dynasty's embrace, but he had to at least make sure that he didn't have any conflicting emotions like before and was willing to interact normally with the dynasty. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to explain himself when he returned. Really, in order to achieve this, an Undying was actually so thick-skinned to do such a thing. There was probably no one else who could do such a thing. He's like a blazing sun that suddenly rose in a frozen universe, using his blazing heat to dispel the cold and melt the ice. He's like a bright star that suddenly floated in from a dark space, using his intense light to dispel the darkness and bring light. He's the eternal hero in our hearts. He's the savior of this universe. He's nurtured. As these emotional words came out of Long Shan-Tang's mouth, they traveled thousands of miles through the large starry sky sound transmission system in front of the rostrum, reaching the surrounding void of the universe, as well as the Federation citizens and starry sky experts in various warships. Hearing. In an instant, the vast void within a radius of nearly 10 million miles fell into a deathly silence. Everyone's mouths were wide open, their faces were blank, and their bodies were motionless, as if they had just been struck by lightning. They were charred on the outside and tender on the inside, collectively petrified. Did this old fellow just get kicked in the head by an ant beast? Even Yi Xian's face was filled with shock at this moment, and his eyes were filled with confusion. As if he was talking to himself, he turned his head to look at Naples, the commander of the Victor's Legion, and asked with obvious uncertainty, "Also, who is this person he's talking about?" The three great starry skies of the world. When did such a godlike figure appear in the main plane? Young master, he is talking about you. Naples's face twitched, and his expression was extremely strange. He replied in a muffled voice, looking at Yi Xian with eyes full of sympathy. "Ha! Is this old thing talking about this Star Lord?" Hearing this, Yi Xian subconsciously trembled all over, and his face instantly turned green. Without the slightest hesitation, he immediately jumped out, pointed at the rostrum of the press conference in front of him with a face full of grief and indignation, and scolded sternly, "Forget about light and heat, I can endure the savior, but what the hell is this nurturing? This Star Lord doesn't have that ability at all, okay? Old thing, why don't you put this matter to rest? Let's make things clear, today is not over." As his roar sounded on the rostrum of the press conference, the immortal realm old monster Long Shan-Tang, who had been speaking with emotion and was on the verge of tears, suddenly stopped talking. He subconsciously turned his head to look at Yi Xian. After a short moment of sluggishness, the old guy seemed to have caught something, and a look of ecstasy appeared on his face in an instant. His figure jumped up, and without even continuing the press conference, he directly walked out of his seat and rushed over to Yi Xian, asking in surprise, "Little friend Yi, what did you say just now?" "If I didn't hear wrong, this old man seems to have heard you call yourself this Star Lord." Chapter 41-24. Without a doubt, Yi Xian had been tricked. Everyone said that the older the ginger, the spicier, and this was indeed true. Long Shan-Tang was indeed an undying old monster who had lived for at least 10,000 years. Although he couldn't keep his face this time, at least he could answer to the emperors of the Undying dynasty. After all, Yi Xian had been forced by him to publicly accept Yi Xian. Even if this didn't mean that he had mended his relationship with the Undying dynasty, at least in the future, the dynasty would use all sorts of high-sounding reasons and excuses to contact Yi Xian in public, and he wouldn't be able to reject them anymore. And this was clearly the only progress that the Eternal Dynasty's upper echelons wanted to achieve by taking a step back. As long as they could do this, that group of old monsters would have a way to repair their relationship with Yi Xian step by step. They didn't dare to say that they could make him voluntarily return to the embrace of the dynasty, but returning to the honeymoon period wouldn't be a problem at all. After all, even an old man like Long Shan-Tang was already so cunning, not to mention that in the Undying Star, there were many older men than Long Shan-Tang. As one of the two super camps of the human race, the Undying dynasty stood tall in the third universe and occupied half of the first universe's dimension for tens of thousands of years. They had all sorts of strategists, and if they couldn't even do this, they would be a laughingstock. The key was that Yi Xian had to give them a chance. As long as there was a chance, Yi Xian would be taken down by them sooner or later. Of course, if it was anyone else, or at any other time, the Undying dynasty wouldn't treat a junior unaffiliated martial artist like this. But now it was different. Yi Xian represented the owner of the great providence of the world, and the three main dimensions were facing an unprecedented crisis. All the top races and powers were facing a test of life and death. Under such circumstances, no matter how serious they were, it wouldn't be too much, at this time, as Tang Longshan's deliberately loud voice was heard by everyone in the surrounding void. The voices calling out Star-Lord Ye's name quickly converged into a frenzy that reverberated throughout the void outside the Sky River planet's atmosphere. Without a doubt, this matter was a foregone conclusion. Even if Yi Xian refused and explained himself, it would be useless. What was done. He had to take Sky River planet. If he didn't want it, it didn't matter. After all, everyone thought he already had it. Old man, are you trying to trick me? Faced with such a scene, Yi Xian's face instantly darkened. His eyes glinting as he stared at Long Shantang, who was full of smiles, in front of him. Although he had already accepted in his heart, in the name of the Undying Dynasty, or in other words, a bribe. However, accepting it in one's heart was one thing, and accepting it in a formal manner was another matter entirely. Even if he still had to accept it in the end, Yi Xian originally planned to go through a bit more trouble before officially confirming this matter. For example, extorting some treasures from the Eternal Dynasty's treasury that were hard to find in the outside world as a condition for accepting this kind of disguised reward. He didn't feel any pressure for this kind of thing. Sky River Planet was one of the administrative planets of the Undying Dynasty. To be honest, this time, Yi Xian had taken action to get rid of the huge tumor of the universe zombies on Sky River Planet. No matter how one looked at it, the Undying Dynasty would benefit the most from it. It could even be said that this kind of benefit far exceeded the value of the administrative planet of Heavenly River Star by countless times. Under such circumstances, Yi Xian would ask for more top-grade precious materials and medicines that were urgently needed to refine the level 19 liquid, but could not be found in the outside world. This was obviously not excessive greed. At the very least, it should be possible to get an ordinary superbrain from the Undying Dynasty's treasury, right? The Starry Sky superbrain had always been in high demand, and there was no market for it. Whenever one appeared on the market or on the black market, it would be immediately bought by the leaders of the major organizations in the three dimensions. However, as one of the two super factions of the human race, the Immortal Dynasty did not have any in its treasure vault. Of course, that was obviously impossible. Yi Xian wouldn't believe it even if he was beaten to death. Unfortunately, before he could do anything, this matter was directly ruined. When he thought of the various precious materials and medicines that were about to belong to him, and the ordinary super brain gone in the blink of an eye, Yi Xian was so angry that the roots of his teeth itched. He stared fiercely at Long Shantang in front of him. His expression was extremely unfriendly. No. It's a misunderstanding. Star Master Yi, this is definitely a misunderstanding. Seeing Yi Xian's expression, Long Shantang's face froze. He hurriedly waved his hands in panic, his head like a rattle drum. This guy was indeed an old fox. With a thought, he immediately saw the problem from Yi Xian's expression. Without waiting for him to speak, he immediately expressed his attitude. Star Master Yi, don't worry. In addition to the ownership of Sky River Planet, the Imperial Court has other rewards. After all, it's such a large life planet. Now that there are so many things waiting for the star, all kinds of resources are extremely scarce. Since the Imperial Court has the beauty of helping you, how could they be so stingy? Later, Master Yi Xian only needs to make a list. All the resources you need will immediately be sent directly through the wormhole at the fastest speed. Hearing him say this, Yi Xian's expression eased a little. It seemed that the Immortal Court was quite sincere. However, it was absolutely impossible for him to return to the embrace of the Imperial Court. In the future they would at most be partners. While they were talking, the other two immortal old monsters on the rostrum of the press conference, the elephant fox Martin and Gong Huaji, had also rushed forward. They seemed to have heard the conversation between Yi Xian and Long Shantang. And after seeing Yi Xian's attitude, the expression on his face clearly eased. A lot. Therefore, as soon as they arrived, they also took over the conversation, followed behind Long Shantang, and expressed their attitudes one after another. Yes. Star Master Yi, there are many things waiting to be done in Sky River Planet. The demand for all kinds of resources is definitely huge. Although the Imperial Court has some supplies, some resources are only available in our cultivation camp. They are special products of the star field. This time, Star Master Yi destroyed the universe zombie's nest and solved a huge hidden danger for the human race. Our Tenju Celestial Palace, as one of the two camps of the human race, naturally can't not express anything. Star Master, ye might as well take a look at what resources you need and give a list to this old man later. I'll send it back immediately and send the resources on the list as soon as possible. It's the same for our 10,000 Luo Federation. Although the races of the second universe have withdrawn from the Federation, the human race is still a member of the Federation. What's more, Star Master Yi is now at the top of the high-level Federation's contribution scoreboard. His personal contribution points are as high as 180 billion. This kind of contribution can no longer be considered ordinary. Chapter 41-25. Green light all the way? Yi Xian sneered. He turned around and glanced at the smiling elephant fox ferret, then lightly continued, "Aren't the high-ranking elders of your myriad Luo Federation Senate a little too generous? If I remember correctly, not long ago in the first universe, this Master of the Stars killed several immortal stage Federation Grand Elders. This is a great enmity. Are you going to let it go just like that?" Without waiting for the Elephantine Martin's reply, he turned to look at Gong Huaji and said in the same tone, "Similarly, an imperishable old monster from the Cultivation camp died in my hands last time. In addition, my devouring doppelganger caused quite a commotion in the Cultivation camp recently as well. Don't tell me that all of you have forgotten?" Yi Xian said these words on purpose. His meaning was very simple. Let's get the ugly words out of the way first. They would bring up these past grudges now and force the other party to take a stand and let bygones be bygones. Otherwise, it would be too disgusting if they casually brought up these trivial matters whenever there was a dispute or disagreement between them when they worked together in the future. The three old fellows obviously knew what Yi Xian meant. In fact, the upper echelons of the powers behind the three of them had also thought of this point. Furthermore, they'd obviously given private instructions regarding this point. Therefore, when Yi Xian suddenly said such words, the three old fellows weren't caught off guard at all. All of them had confident expressions on their faces as they faintly smiled and expressed their attitudes one after another. "Star Master Yi, please don't bring up the past again." When those things happened, Star Master Yi obviously had no choice. We all understand this. Yes. Besides, when Star Master Yi returned to the third universe this time, didn't the plane-level Star Master Network AI Center in the Immortal Star already make a full assessment of these matters? If that wasn't the case, Star Master Ye's current Federation contribution points would be much more than what you have now. That's more than 180 billion. Since the immortal rank superbrain on the Imperial Capital Star has already cleaned up the past, we will definitely not mention this matter again. Star Lord Yi, please dispel your misgivings. If you need anything, just list it out. We will definitely provide it to you and send it to the Heavenly River Star as soon as possible. This was what Yi Xian wanted to hear. After all, now that he had taken over Sky River Star, it was equivalent to having a fixed base in the third dimension of the universe. It was no longer the situation where he had to wander around alone like before. Under such circumstances, both the two human superfactions and the headquarters of the Myriad Luo Federation would definitely come to disturb him from time to time. It wasn't a good idea to avoid meeting him all the time. In the end, they had to sit together and form an alliance. If he didn't clean up the past now, it would be troublesome if these parties brought it up from time to time. But now, there was no problem. The three old guys in front of him were all supreme existences of the immortal realm. They had expressed their stance in front of Yi Xian on behalf of the forces behind them. Now, they wouldn't have to worry about them going back on their word. After achieving his goal, Yi Xian was in a good mood. He immediately began to think about the 3 lists of resources. Yes, 3 lists. Since they were so enthusiastic, it wouldn't be bad to favor one and discriminate against the others. He had to be fair. In fact, saying that the Heavenly River Star had many things to do was pure nonsense. The Heavenly River Star was the only planet with life on the edge of the graveyard star field. Over the years, countless experts from all over the universe had come to the graveyard star field to excavate the star core origin. Although Tuoba Linfeng's universe zombie army must have consumed a part of the resources in the star vault during this period, what the universe zombies needed was flesh and blood after all, so the real loss was actually not that great. Now that the entire Heavenly River Star was empty, what it lacked at most was human resources. However, the various cultivation resources, precious materials, and precious medicines in the star vault was still there. For Yi Xian, who had taken over the Heavenly River Star, not only did he not need any resources to repair the originally undamaged Heavenly River Star, but he also didn't need any resources. As for the Heavenly River Star, he also made a lot of money because of this. The Heavenly River Star was already his, so what else was there to say about the treasures and resources in the Star Vault? However, it was fine as long as everyone knew this. The two camps of the human race and the myriad Luo Federation just wanted to send some gifts to Yixian, who represented the great destiny of the world, so that it would be convenient for them to get closer in the future. Therefore, even though he didn't need any resources at all to rebuild the so-called Heavenly River Star, Yixian wouldn't be polite. He directly issued an order to the devouring system in his body, and asked it to make 3 lists according to Yixian's current needs. Among them, he specifically said that a super brain was necessary first of all. Secondly, all the top precious materials and medicines that the system had deduced to refine the level 18, level 19, and level 20 liquids had to be allocated to the 3 lists. He had already refined the level 16 and level 17 liquids before this. The level 16 liquids allowed Yixian to break through to the Star-Lord state. He didn't have time to use the level 17 liquids, but thanks to the undying and indestructible biomass energy, he broke through to the State-Lord state in one fell swoop. The level 18 liquids were required to break through to the Realm Lord state. Yixian had taken advantage of the fact that the undying and indestructible biomass energy in his body hadn't been completely exhausted to accumulate a large number of top-grade body-tempering materials. He even used 10 drops of all evil origin fluid to successfully push his cultivation and physical realm to the Realm Lord state. For him, the level 18 liquids were indeed unnecessary. However, he still planned to refine them. On the one hand, although he didn't need them, the others around him would still need them when they wanted to break through to the Realm Lord state in the future. On the other hand, if he wanted to refine the level 19 liquids, he couldn't avoid the level 18 liquids. He had to take one step at a time and move steadily. As for the level 19 liquids, they would allow Yixian to break through to the universe state from the Realm Lord state. The level 20 liquids would be used to break through from the universe state to the immortal state. That was the difference between the universe state and the immortal state, which could be achieved with a single tube of gene cultivation fluid. Just this alone showed how difficult it was to find the various precious materials and herbs required to refine these 2 types of gene cultivation fluids. In fact, these were only the auxiliary materials used to concoct the pill. The true main material used to refine the pill was the corpse of the supreme being from the desolate era that Yixian had kept in the Shenong cauldron. Even so, these auxiliary materials were probably only available to the 2 super factions of the human race, the headquarters of the myriad Luo Federation, and other superpowers that were considered transcendent existences in the 3 main planes of the starry skies. Yixian had searched for a long time, but had only obtained a few strands. It was far too lacking. Soon, the 3 lists were listed after the devouring system in his body began to deduce. Chapter 41-26. On these 3 lists of required resources, Yixian listed a large amount of cultivation resources and a normal-level superbrain that the Heavenly River planet needed. The most important thing was that he asked for all the top-grade medicinal materials needed to refine the level 19 and level 20 liquids that the devouring system in his body had deduced. Precious medicine. These 2 types of genetic cultivation fluids could create the old monsters of the universe and the immortal old monsters. Any one of the 2 prescriptions deduced by the devouring system was extraordinary. With Yixian's collection, he had only collected 4 types of medicinal materials after so long. The least was 1 stalk, and the most was 2 stalks. This showed how precious and difficult it was to collect them. Because of this, even if he was facing the 2 super camps of the human race and the myriad Luo Federation, Yixian only divided all the medicinal materials in these 2 prescriptions into 3 batches and asked for them separately. Of course, although the medicinal materials were divided into 3 batches and provided by the 3 giants, Yixian asked for 10 portions of each batch of medicinal materials. After all, there was a problem with the success rate of refining the level 16 liquid, let alone the level 18 and level 19 liquids now. It was always good to prepare a few more portions. When these 3 lists of resources were handed over, even Yixian himself felt a bit embarrassed. His face was bashful, and his heart was slightly apprehensive. It was fine if it was other things, but the key was that the top-notch treasures on the level 19 and level 20 prescriptions were too eye-catching. Even immortal realm old monsters would be able to do so. Treasure them like brooms. In fact, more than half of the top-grade medicinal materials in these 2 prescriptions were ones that Yixian had never even heard of before. 10,000-year-old jade fragrance Ganoderma. Withered Zen Brahma soul Ganoderma. Starry sky scorching sun grass.
Extreme Sky Snow Matsutake Dew. Demon Fiend Vine. Radium Calamity Ultimate Exquisite Ginseng. Immortal Weeping Moon Beast Nest Egg. All of them were rare and unorthodox things. Even the names of the medicinal materials were extremely difficult to pronounce. Hiss. Starry Sky Scorching Sun Grass. 10 stalks? Heavens, although this thing is a specialty of the cultivation camp, the scorching sungrass takes 100,000 years to mature. Moreover, the headquarters of Jianghu Palace only preserved 13 stalks. Withered Zen Brahma Soul Mushroom? Demon Fiend Vine? 10 servings of everything? Heavens, even this old man would yearn for something like this, even in my dreams. Immortal Rank Weeping Moon Beast Nest? Woo! This is something that can only be found on an immortal rank Weeping Moon Beast. Moreover, it has to be a mother beast. After killing it, one can only obtain 1 nest egg. 10 eggs means 10 immortal rank monsters. Even our Federation headquarters can't take out so many eggs. I heard that there's a total. Only 8. As the 3 lists were handed over by Yi Xian, the elephant fox ferret, Long Shantang, Gong Huaji, and the other 3 immortal realm-old monsters immediately looked down. At first, their expressions were still normal. This was because what Yi Xian listed at the top of the list were all common cultivation resources and consumables. Although there was a lot of them, they were nothing compared to the 2 super factions of the human race and the myriad Luo Federation headquarters. Even the normal-level star superbrain that was requested from the immortal dynasty of the human race's technology camp was within Long Shantang's expectations. After all, the Sky River planet had completely turned into a nest of space zombies. As the intelligence center of the Starfield Star Network, the Starfield Superbrain was no exception. Now that the Sky River planet had been bribed to Yi Xian in disguise, the higher-ups of the dynasty must have thought of this problem. Without a normal-level star superbrain, although the Sky River planet could still function, there were too many restrictions. Many star-sky technology methods could not be used smoothly. Therefore, even if Yi Xian did not mention this star superbrain, they would have taken the initiative to send it over. However, as the 3 immortal realm-old monsters looked, they soon saw the top precious materials and medicines that Yi Xian had placed at the end of the 3 lists because of his guilty conscience. At this moment, the expressions on the faces of the 3 old guys all froze, and their eyes widened. After a brief moment of shock, they all gasped and cried out in surprise. Facing this scene, Yi Xian became even more embarrassed. However, he forcefully resisted the urge to open his mouth and shut his mouth. This was the best opportunity to obtain these top-grade precious materials and medicines. If he were to miss this opportunity, who knew when he would be able to gather all of them? At this time, after the 3 old guys cried out in surprise, they raised their heads to look at Yi Xian in shock and asked repeatedly, "Young friend, what do you want these top precious materials and medicines for? You have to know that any one of these can be used by the 3 of us. These are things that are useful to even the immortal realm-old monsters. The words heaven and earth treasure are not enough to describe them." Yes. Judging from the effects of these things, young friend should want to temper his body, right? If that's the case, why don't we exchange them? Let's exchange them for something suitable for the Sector Lord realm. After all, with your current cultivation level, it's really too wasteful to use these top-grade precious materials and medicines at the Sector Lord realm. Of course, if young friend insists, it's not that we can't gather them, but the key is that 10 portions of each is too frightening. Among these things we do indeed have more than 10 portions, but for some, we only have 6 or 7 portions. Why don't we reduce it by half? 5 portions? Let's try it first. After speaking, the 3 old guys looked at Yi Xian with hopeful expressions. In the end, it was the elephant fox ferret who was worthy of being one of them, and directly helped Yi Xian in secret. He directly agreed to the other 2 old monsters' suggestion of exchanging the batch of medicinal ingredients and reduced it by half. However, if it was said that these 3 superfactions could only gather 6 or 7 portions of medicinal ingredients, Yi Xian wouldn't believe it even if he was beaten to death. 5 portions should be their bottom line, but if they really wanted to force it, according to Yi Xian's estimation, at least 20 portions wouldn't be a problem. However, he couldn't push them too hard. Otherwise, once the upper echelons of the factions behind these 3 old guys hesitated and shrank back, it would be too late for regrets. He had to stop while he was ahead. After all, these weren't ordinary items. If he let Yi Xian collect them, it was unknown whether he could gather them within 100 years. Now that he could easily obtain them,
and 5 portions at that. He should be satisfied.
5 portions it is. Deal.
Thinking of this, Yi Xian promptly nodded and directly decided on this matter. However, forget about the other items. You can send them over at any time. But can you get these top-grade precious materials and medicines as soon as possible? Anyway, it's just some medicinal ingredients and won't take up much space. Just use the wormhole to send them over, won't consume much energy. I'm in a hurry to refine the level 19 liquid. Level 19 liquid? Chapter 41-27. It's up to you whether you believe me or not. Anyway, since you've already agreed, then hurry up and send over all the top precious materials and medicines listed at the end of the list. This Star Master is really in urgent need of them. Seeing that these 3 old guys didn't believe him, Yi Xian was too lazy to explain. He rolled his eyes and urged them again. If Yi Xian had patted his chest and said with certainty, these 3 old guys might not have believed him. After all, level 19 liquid was not an ordinary thing. In the human race's scientific and technological camp, they could only refine level 11 liquid at present, and this was all thanks to Yi Xian. Under such circumstances, Yi Xian suddenly said that he wanted to refine level 19 liquid. There was a difference of 7 levels, which was 7 realms. Even the gap between heaven and earth was not enough to describe it. Naturally, no one dared to believe him easily. But now, he didn't explain at all. Instead, he had a completely indifferent expression. However, he kept urging them to quickly send over the various top-grade precious materials and medicines listed on the list. This kind of situation caused the 3 old fellows to become suspicious. Unknowingly, they were already subconsciously inclined to believe Yi Xian's words. But this was too shocking. When they thought of the significance of this matter if it was true. Thinking of this, the 3 immortal realm old monsters immediately sucked in a cold breath again. They didn't dare to delay any longer. After hurriedly saying goodbye to Yi Xian, they returned to their respective flagship fortresses and immediately reported this matter to the higher-ups of the forces behind them. At the same time, whether it was the immortal star of the immortal dynasty, the main palace of the Tenju Celestial Palace, or the 10,000 Luo Federation Senate deep under a certain plane on the immortal star, there were faint sounds of people sucking in cold breaths. Afterwards, for some unknown reason, all of the top-grade precious materials and medicines that Yi Xian had listed at the end of the 3 lists were all sent to Heavenly River Planet in a short period of half a day, regardless of the cost, through the wormhole teleportation method. Furthermore, each of them required a total of 5 sets of precious materials and medicines. When these rare top-grade resources were gathered in the hands of Yi Xian, he was so happy that he grinned. After greeting the nervous Long Shan Tang and the other 2 immortal realm old monsters, Yi Xian directly rushed to the Heavenly River Star. In a remote area, he took out a miniature version of the Shengnong cauldron and stepped in. Among them, he decided to start refining immediately. He would start with level 18 liquid, and then level 19 liquid. Before this, he had successfully turned the flesh and blood of a Luan Feng treasure body of a quasi-desolation grand cultivator into a round ball after being refined by the Shengnong 4-colored flame. It shone with green and red light and was condensed into a flesh and blood liquid. Although the sphere that appeared in the form of slurry was only about a foot in diameter, it was formed from the flesh and blood of a gigantic Luan phoenix bird after shattering the chains of order. Under the refinement of the Shengnong 4-colored flame, the chains of order in the Luan phoenix bird's flesh and blood completely collapsed. Its body disappeared, and even a miniature flesh and blood black hole appeared, completely collapsing. From this, it could be seen how terrifying the energy contained in this orb of liquid was. And this was only the first step in refining the flesh and blood medicine. Yi Xian had only obtained a semi-finished product that time, and it couldn't be considered a real flesh and blood medicine. Now, if he wanted to concoct a real flesh and blood medicine, he had to use this flesh and blood liquid as a foundation, and then add in all kinds of rare heavenly materials and earthly treasures, as well as other materials and resources, again and again to complete the concoction. This process required him to painstakingly explore and deduce. After all, this was opening up a new path that no one had ever walked before. However, Yi Xian already had the experience of concocting level 16 and level 17 liquids, so at this moment, it was easy for him to do it. Soon, he had successfully concocted 3 tubes of level 18 liquids. The moment these 3 tubes of level 18 liquids were formed, a tribulation cloud floated over from the horizon. Although it was only one cloud, it struck Yi Xian and his tubes together. But in the end, it was more frightening than dangerous. These 3 tubes of level 18 liquids all passed the liquid tribulation,
And even Yi Xian's cultivation strength that had just broken through completely solidified in these 3 waves of tribulation lightning. The level 18 liquids were used to break through to the Sector Lord realm, so he didn't need them himself. He only needed to prepare 3 tubes for the purplish warbler, Duanmu Xiaocha, and Zhao Qianru. Therefore, after putting away these 3 tubes of level 18 liquids, Yi Xian immediately took a deep breath. He planned to concoct a few more tubes of level 19 liquids in one go. According to the formula of the level 19 liquids, he only had 5 sets of materials in his hands. He had 1 to 2 sets for himself, and the remaining 3 sets for the 3 girls of the purplish warbler. In other words, in these 5 concoctions, there couldn't be a single failure. Otherwise, if Yi Xian took 1 tube and it wasn't enough, the 3 girls would only have 2 tubes to share. If that really happened, Yi Xian would probably be torn apart by the 3 of them. After calming down, Yi Xian prepared all kinds of top-grade materials and precious medicines to concoct the level 19 liquids. Following that, he took out a jade essence crystal box from his undying world.
With a wave of his hand, a ball of fleshy medicinal paste that was about a foot in diameter floated out from within.
This fleshy medicinal paste was about the size of a chicken egg. The green and red fleshy medicinal paste slowly floated out, and its surface was enshrouded in a mysterious halo. It was incomparably dazzling, and there were countless tiny runes that appeared and disappeared on its surface. It was extremely mysterious. Taking a deep breath, Yi Xian carefully reviewed the formula of the level 19 liquids that the system had deduced earlier. 10,000-year jade-scented spirit mushroom. Withered Buddhist spirit mushroom. Blazing star sun grass. Extreme-grade heavenly snow mushroom dew. Demonic wraith vine. Radium tribulation ultimate exquisite ginseng. Immortal-grade moon concealing weeping pearl beast nest egg. These were all top-grade materials. Even Yi Xian didn't have a lot of them, so he couldn't afford to waste them on them. Therefore, at this moment, he was very cautious.
Although he had dozens of sets of fleshy medicinal paste, and even more than 100 sets of supreme resources like all evil origin liquid that could increase the efficacy of the medicinal paste and ensure the success rate, he didn't have that many crucial heavenly treasures.
Feeling anxious, Yi Xian took a deep breath.
With a wave of his hand, he took out a set of heavenly treasures that he had prepared according to the formula that the system had deduced earlier.
It floated in front of him. Immediately after, a wisp of Shenong's 4-colored flames shot out from the volcanic flame pool not far away.
With just a sweep, it enveloped all the top-grade materials and precious medicines that were floating in front of Yi Xian and began to condense and purify them.
Throughout the entire process, Yi Xian was completely focused. He didn't dare to be distracted in the slightest because every single piece of equipment was too precious. It wasn't easy for him to get a batch today, so it was almost impossible for him to collect all of them in the future. After a short while, all the heavenly treasures melted and turned into a ball of green liquid the size of an egg. Yi Xian still had 2 more steps to do. Chapter 41-28. Even though these were only 2 small steps, they were crucial. Yi Xian didn't dare to be careless.
Very quickly, a drop of all evil origin liquid and a drop of nether liquid that had already been refined by the divine farmer's 4-colored flames were taken out by Yi Xian from the undying world within his body and floated in front of him. Following that, with a thought from him, these 2 drops of priceless top-notch resources slowly moved towards the egg-sized canopy that he had already prepared.
The blood, flesh, and medicinal paste floated over, including the egg-sized ball of green essence. At this moment, Yi Xian's heart was in his throat. His divine sense was pushed to the limit, and the mental power source core in his brain was overloaded. His divine sense and mental power were both used to the limit, and he carefully controlled this ball of mixture to carry out the final fusion. ZZZT. ZZZT. In the next instant, as these 4 materials converged and fused, the surface of this newly formed ball of mixture instantly emitted a dazzling brilliance. It was too bright. Yi Xian's eyes narrowed, and he subconsciously closed them, his heart pounding. With apprehension in his heart, Yi Xian carefully used his divine sense and mental power to control as steadily as possible, guiding these 4 different resources that had already converged together to carry out the final, perfect fusion. Almost 2 hours passed by very quickly. During this process, the surface of this small ball formed by the convergence of 4 top-grade resources was constantly emitting a sizzling halo of energy, causing Yi Xian's heart to tremble. Buzz! After a series of strange sizzling sounds, this small ball suddenly let out a trembling sound. Yi Xian also came to a realization at this moment. If there were no accidents, this bottle of grade 19 elixir should have been successfully concocted. When he focused his gaze, he discovered that a ball the size of a cinnabar fruit was currently suspended in the void about 3 meters in front of him. This object was clearly a liquid. It was greenish-blue in color and incomparably pure. Its surface was suffused with a layer of greenish-blue light with hints of purple, and there seemed to be countless obscure runes that were forming and disappearing in a cycle. Although its size wasn't too inconspicuous, upon closer inspection, one could see that there were actually countless energy runes flickering inside it. They appeared quickly and disappeared even faster, and they were constantly forming, as if they could draw one's mind into it. Rumble! Boom! Just as Yi Xian's eyes were blank as he stared blankly at the liquid in front of him that was only the size of a pearl fruit, a series of rumbling sounds suddenly came from the middle of the volcano in the central region. It was extremely dull, like the sound of thunder. Yi Xian reflexively raised his head to look. In the sky above the Shen-Nong Cauldron volcano that he could see, a large black thundercloud had indeed gathered. This was clearly the rhythm of the thunder tribulation coming again. However, compared to the lightning tribulation that appeared when refining the 16th, 17th, and 18th level liquids, the tribulation cloud that gathered above the volcano in the central region was not only vaster, but the invisible pressure that it emitted was also clearly more terrifying. After all, the level 19 liquid created the old monster of the universe. This was not something that the Realm Master could compare to. Very quickly, this majestic tribulation cloud split into two. In the sky above the central region volcano, one on the left and one on the right, it transformed into two gigantic tribulation cloud vortexes. Seeing this scene, Yi Xian's heart skipped a beat, and his expression changed. Two tribulation cloud vortexes? F***CK. Wasn't there only one wave of liquid tribulation before? But now, it seemed that this level 19 liquid was clearly different. There were clearly two waves of liquid tribulation descending. It was fine if it was one wave, but at least it wouldn't be a problem for him to withstand it. However, if it was two waves, it would be hard to say. After the first wave, he would already be struck by lightning, and before he could recover, the second wave would descend in an instant. This was definitely the rhythm of a bad dish. Thinking of this, Yi Xian immediately hesitated. He wanted to try to absorb this newly refined level 19 liquid into his undying world and see if he could use it to temporarily avoid the thunder tribulation. However, if he really did so, he was somewhat unwilling. This was because although the liquid tribulation was a hurdle, once the treasure liquid failed to pass the tribulation, everything would be for naught and he would have to start all over again. Moreover, if he succeeded again, he would have to face the same tribulation test again. However, if he succeeded, the treasure liquid that had passed through one lightning tribulation had been baptized and tempered by the lightning tribulation, and its power and effect would definitely increase again. This was obvious. It could be said that the so-called treasure liquid lightning tribulation was both a test and an opportunity. In the end, after a moment of hesitation, Yi Xian gritted his teeth and decided to try resisting it once. In any case, there were still 4 more batches of medicinal ingredients, so at most, this batch would be used as a trial run. Crack! Almost at the same time that he gritted his teeth and made his decision, a crisp explosion sounded out. The black tribulation cloud that enveloped the space above the volcano in the central region suddenly blasted down a strange green lightning bolt, smashing down at an extremely fast speed. Just like when he was refining the level 18 liquid, the green lightning not only locked onto the level 19 liquid that had just been successfully refined, but also Yi Xian. At this moment, all the power in Yi Xian's body was activated. His eyes shone brightly as he gritted his teeth and raised his head to look. Together with the level 19 liquid hanging above his head, he faced the green lightning bolt that was as thick as a baby's arm. The lightning instantly smashed down at an inconceivable speed, completely enveloping Yi Xian and the green treasure liquid hanging above his head. At this moment, Yi Xian's heart was in his throat, but in the end, the first bolt of lightning was the same as before. Although it struck Yi Xian's head into dust, the first bolt of lightning was the same as before. However, his face was not injured at all. It was the same for the level 19 liquid hanging above his head. Not only was it unharmed, but as the green lightning quickly disappeared, the green liquid that had been enveloped by lightning just a moment ago, after being baptized by the green tribulation lightning, clearly had a hint of the aura of lightning within it. On the surface it was divided. On the surface, there were some tiny bolts of lightning that were like spider webs that were expanding and retracting. Just like the bolt of lightning that had descended before,
It was green in color and gave off a thick sense of strangeness. After the baptism of a bolt of lightning, the medicinal effect of this green treasure liquid would definitely be even more astonishing. Furthermore, it had been added with a strange green lightning attribute, and the effect of tempering the body would be even better. Unfortunately, there was more than one wave of lightning tribulation. As the first bolt of green lightning struck down from the black tribulation cloud, the tribulation cloud vortex on the left side of the sky instantly dissipated. However, this only meant that the first wave of lightning tribulation had passed. Crack! Without waiting for Xianxia to make any adjustments, another heaven-shaking crisp sound came from the sky above his head. The tribulation cloud vortex on the right side surged at an extremely fast speed, and in the end, all the tribulation clouds condensed together in an instant, transforming into a huge bolt of golden-purple lightning that struck down with a rumbling sound. Chapter 41:29. Following another heaven-shaking crisp sound from the horizon, the tribulation cloud vortex on the right side surged at an extremely fast speed. All of the tribulation clouds condensed together in an instant, transforming into an enormous bolt of golden-purple lightning that struck down with a rumble. Xianxia's face turned green as he involuntarily cried out in alarm. Although it was the same wave of tribulation liquid, the difference between the second lightning bolt and the first one was too great. It was several times thicker, and its color had turned purple gold. Based on Xianxia's experience, he knew at a glance that it would definitely be astonishing. He even had a premonition that if he didn't use some tricks and just directly face the second lightning bolt head-on, not only would he not be able to keep the bottle of level 19 liquid that he had just concocted, but he would also be injured, and it would definitely be more than just a light injury. Simple. But this lightning tribulation was both a test and the last baptism after the level 19 liquid was formed. If he directly used his strongest ability to disperse the lightning, the level 19 liquid would be baptized by the lightning tribulation. If there was a deficiency in the medicinal effect, he wouldn't be able to break through to the universe grade even if he swallowed it. Wouldn't it be a waste of effort? Master, don't worry. The Lightning Mother will share the burden of this purple gold lightning tribulation for you. Just as Xianxia was hesitating, a woman's voice suddenly sounded in his mind when he saw that the purple gold lightning that was as thick as his waist was about to reach his head. Lightning Mother? Xianxia was stunned for a moment, but he quickly reacted. The reason this voice could appear directly in his mind was obviously because it was connected to Xianxia's mind. Obviously, this woman who called herself the Lightning Mother should be the desolate Lightning Mother, who had awakened not long ago in the primordial desolate treasure Yanluo, and was able to condense the lightning true body with a wisp of lightning origin. The Yanluo had been completely refined by Xianxia. 3 of the 7 primordial spiritual sense origins had been awakened and condensed into the second life true body. Relying on the connection between the Yanluo and Xianxia, the 3 of them could directly communicate with Xianxia. When the desolate Lady of Lightning condensed her second life real body, she had originally used a strand of thunder origin. Hence, she was naturally not afraid of things like thunder and lightning. Of course, Xianxia's Rai D seal should be the same. However, once the Rai D seal was activated, it would probably directly absorb this terrifying purple gold lightning bolt. It still wouldn't have the effect of refining the level 19 liquid. Although the Rai D seal already had the Thunder Sparrow as its weapon spirit, it was still not as agile as the desolate ancient Electra Lady. With the help of the desolate ancient Electra Lady, it should be able to ensure that the level 19 liquid would be baptized by the purple lightning of the Thunder Tribulation, while also ensuring that the level 19 liquid in Xianxia would be safe. With that thought in mind, Xianxia no longer hesitated. With a wave of his hand, he summoned the desolate era treasure, Yanluo, from his undying world. Swish! A ray of light flashed, and after it rushed out from Xianxia's body, it instantly transformed into an ancient brocade handkerchief that was slightly larger than a palm. It spun in the air and expanded with the wind, and in the blink of an eye, it was already 3 meters tall, floating above Xianxia's head like the surface of a wave. In the next moment, 2 incomparably slender, jade-like legs stepped out from the undulating surface of the handkerchief. After half a step, a beautiful and slender figure appeared, standing barefoot on the undulating surface of the handkerchief. It was a beauty that was completely different from that of the corpse ancestor, Hanba, and Ho Qing. For a moment, even Xianxia was stunned by the sight of it. Crack! At this moment, the purple gold lightning bolt that was as thick as an adult's waist finally struck down with a majestic pressure that could destroy everything. Fuse! Above him, on the undulating surface of the handkerchief, the desolate lightning goddess with a pair of pink and tender feet suddenly let out a delicate cry, and her figure instantly shot up.
What made Yi Xian dumbstruck was that she actually directly jumped into the gigantic purple gold lightning bolt, and her figure was drowned out as she directly disappeared. However, this action seemed to be completely useless. The purple gold lightning bolt that was as thick as a waist continued to strike down. Its speed did not even slow down in the slightest, and the pressure was still the same. It was as if the desolate lightning goddess had been killed in an instant. In the next moment, just as Yi Xian's expression changed, the purple gold lightning bolt that was smashing down suddenly stopped. It dispersed on the surface of the undulating Yan Luo handkerchief, transforming into a purple gold lightning net that rushed into the surface of the handkerchief. Immediately after, before Yi Xian could react to what had happened, from the bottom of the handkerchief, countless strands of purple gold lightning that were as thin as spider webs fell down from the sky, directly enveloping him and the level 19 liquid that was suspended above his head. In an instant, the densely packed purple gold lightning threads directly drilled into the level 19 liquid, twisting and turning. At the same time, a large amount of lightning threads flowed into Yi Xian's pores, causing him to feel a sense of numbness. It was both soul-stirring and comfortable, but it did not have the domineering destructive aura of lightning. At this moment, Yi Xian finally came to a realization. Obviously, the desolate lightning goddess had rushed into the purple gold lightning bolt with her own body and merged with it. Then, through the desolate ancient heavy artifact, the Yan Luo, she had condensed the lightning power that was originally exuding a strong destructive pressure into countless strands of lightning threads that were as thin as spider webs, and then enveloped the level 19 liquid in Yi Xian. In this way, the strength of the tribulation lightning hadn't changed, but its might had been reduced to nothing. The effects of tempering and cleansing were still present, but the domineering destructive aura it possessed had been imperceptibly dispersed. Only an ancestral existence like the desolate lightning goddess was capable of accomplishing this. If it was anyone else, then even an eternal realm expert would probably be unable to accomplish such a perfect effect. Master, I was fortunate enough to succeed. Right when Yi Xian was sighing with emotion in his heart, a slender and fair foot stepped out from within his body, and it took half a step forward before it revealed the graceful and delicate figure of the desolate lightning goddess. For some unknown reason, her face was actually flushed red at this moment. Master, I've gained quite a bit this time as well. My divine sense quintessence has sunk down. Some of the energy within my slumber has been activated. Perhaps I'll be able to rely on this to break through and recover from the region Lord Realm to the world Lord Realm in one go. I'm going back to slumber. As soon as she finished speaking, she turned around as if she was fleeing, and then she leaped into the Yan Luo with a red face and vanished. Swish! In the next instant, the Yan Luo that was originally over 3m in size actually shrunk by itself, and it transformed into a ray of light that charged into Yi Xian's body. Air! My face has turned red? Yi Xian was stunned, and then he recalled that she'd taken a step out from within his body, coupled with the numbing feeling he felt from before. He seemed to have realized something, and he shuddered before he muttered in a light voice. This shouldn't be considered as a fusion, right? Amidst the embarrassment in his heart, along with the numbing feeling from the baptism of lightning gradually vanishing, the familiar sound of system notifications resounded once more in Yi Xian's mind. Ding! Congratulations to host for breaking through in the ancient void insight technique. Current cultivation. Second level of the World Lord Realm. Ding! Congratulations to host for breaking through in the Qi and Blood Realm. Current cultivation. Second level of the World Lord Realm. Chapter 4130. In his line of sight, the level 19 liquid hovering above his head was clearly different now. From time to time, there would be some purple gold fine lightning strands appearing within it. This was a sign that the power of the two waves of lightning tribulation had been absorbed. Without a doubt, after successfully resisting the baptism of 2 consecutive waves of liquid tribulation lightning, the effects of this bottle of level 19 liquid had now reached perfection. Yi Xian even had a premonition that once he reached the great circle of the 9th order of the Sector Lord Realm, even if it was the level 19 liquid that created the old monster of the universe, he would only need to consume the tube in front of him to successfully break through and become a universe-grade powerhouse in one go. With this kind of joy and satisfaction, Yi Xian carefully put away this level 19 liquid into a jade essence crystal bottle and placed it properly in the undying world in his body. Immediately after, he used his consciousness to contact the desolate lightning lady in the desolate ancient treasure Yan Luo in his body. He told her not to be in a hurry to enter hibernation and digest what he had just obtained. This was because Yi Xian had a total of 5 sets of refining materials for the level 19 liquid. Now, he had only successfully concocted one level 19 liquid, so it was obviously still too early. He planned to use up all the other 4 sets of materials in one go. If he was lucky, he should be able to concoct another 4 levels of liquid. Soon, the desolate lightning lady in the Yanluo responded. Although she agreed, her voice was as soft as a mosquito's buzzing, revealing a hint of helplessness and shyness. This made Yixian even more embarrassed. Just now, the desolate lightning lady had merged with the second purple-gold lightning bolt and turned into countless fine lightning strands that entered Yixian's body. It gave him an awkward feeling of numbness. Finally, the desolate lightning goddess stepped out of his body. This clearly showed that the two of them had already merged into one body. Accident, this is definitely an accident. Yixian swallowed his saliva as he recalled the feeling of losing his soul. He muttered to himself as if he was mocking himself. Then, he quickly dispersed the beautiful thoughts in his mind and took out the second set of top-notch precious ingredients to concoct the level 19 liquid. 2 hours later, the remaining 4 portions of level 19 liquid materials had all successfully survived the liquid tribulation and turned into 4 tubes of brand new level 19 liquid. During this time, the lightning tribulation had also descended 4 times. At the end of each tribulation, the desolate lightning lady would walk out of Yixian's body with bare hands. The redness on her cheeks would become more and more intense. At the last tribulation, she practically ran out of Yixian's body with her chin raised. Her face was so red that blood could be squeezed out. Because of these 4 times, Yixian would feel that incomparable numbness every time when the lightning strands entered his body. In fact, looking at it from a certain point of view, to concoct with the desolate lightning lady 4 times. Although the latter was a beautiful cultivator of the desolate era, a powerful existence, she had never experienced such a thing and was already embarrassed to death. But at the same time, after going through the last 4 thunder tribulations, more of the sealed power and memories in the origin of the desolate lightning lady's spiritual sense should have been awakened. After the last thunder tribulation, she directly entered Yanluo and fell into a deep sleep. He believed that when she woke up again, the degree of recovery of her cultivation and strength would be extremely pleasing. As for Yixian, although he felt as if his body was being tempered again every time he was baptized by the purple gold lightning, he didn't break through a small level every time he was baptized like the first time he was baptized. The last 4 times, he only broke through a small level in total. This was expected. The same method of tempering the body and strength, generally speaking, would only have the best effect on the first time. But even so, his original body had finally broken through to the 3rd level of the Sector Lord Realm. With one more breakthrough, he would be able to enter the middle level of the Sector Lord Realm. It was not easy, and he was extremely satisfied. Previously, when his original body was at the 2nd level of the Sector Lord Realm, the strength of his ancient ape demon bloodline true body was at the 3rd level of the Sector Lord Realm. Once he used the 9 demonic ape demon transformation and reached the 5th transformation, he would instantly reach the 8th level of the Sector Lord Realm. Every transformation would increase his strength by a small level. Now that his original body's cultivation had broken through once again, he had finally stepped into the 3rd level of the Realm Lord Realm. In that case, after activating the Devil Ape's bloodline, Yixian's cultivation in the 3-headed 6-armed ancient Devil Ape state would be able to reach the 4th level of the Realm Lord Realm. Once he entered the 5th transformation, his peak battle strength would reach the 9th level of the Sector Lord Realm. Just one more breakthrough and he would be able to feel the strength of a universe-grade expert in advance. In fact, just now, if Yixian were to add on the various treasures in his hands and the various powerful bloodline abilities, he was completely confident that he would be able to fight against the old monsters at the advanced level of the sempiternal realm. He might even be able to defeat them. At the moment, more than half a day had passed since Yixian entered the Farmer God Cauldron. During this period of time, besides the previous few vials of the level 18 liquid, he had only concocted 5 vials of the level 19 liquid. Then during this process, his cultivation had improved once again, breaking through 2 small realms. In addition to the 5 sets of top-notch precious herbs for the level 19 liquid formula, he still had 5 sets of precious herbs for the level 20 liquid formula. The level 20 liquid formula was used to create an immortal old monster. Its preciousness was undoubtedly much higher than the level 19 liquid formula. Based on Yixian's successful concoction of the 5 vials of the level 19 liquid formula, he was completely confident that he could concoct the level 20 liquid formula as well in terms of concoction techniques and techniques. 5 sets of top-notch precious herbs for the level 20 liquid formula would at most fail once or twice. According to a conservative estimate,
he would be able to concoct at least 3 vials of the level 20 liquid formula successfully.
Every time he thought of this, Yi Xian's heart stirred. He couldn't wait to start concocting immediately.
This way, the finished product of the gene cultivation liquid in his hands would be enough to support his cultivation all the way to the sempiternal realm and become an immortal old monster.
This was indeed exciting. Yi Xian almost started concocting it directly. However, when he thought of the desolate lightning goddess in Yanluo falling into a deep sleep again, he couldn't help but hesitate again. Even after the completion of the level 19 liquid formula, there would be 2 waves of terrifying tribulation lightning in succession. The level 20 liquid formula was a taboo item that could create an immortal old monster. Once the concoction was successful, the result was obvious. Once the liquid tribulation descended, not to mention 2 waves of terrifying purple-gold lightning, it was very likely that there would be 3 waves of lightning in succession. Thinking of this, Yi Xian couldn't help but shake his head and smile bitterly. In the end, he forcibly suppressed the impulse in his heart. A top-notch precious herb of this level really couldn't be wasted like this. Even he would feel distressed. Before he had absolute confidence, it was better not to mess around casually. Chapter 41-31. During the half-day that Yi Xian entered the Shenong Cauldron to concoct the level 18 and level 19 liquids, the entire Sky River Star area was in a state of turmoil. The Sky River Star originally belonged to the immortal dynasty of the human race, but now it had become the private territory of Yi Xian, the master of the Sky River Star, including a large area of the Sky River Star area around this vital planet. This kind of thing was simply unprecedented. If it weren't for the fact that Yi Xian had been confirmed as the owner of the world's great providence, and that the 3 main planes of the starry sky were now facing a great existential crisis, this would never have happened. Everyone knew what it meant to have a vital planet that belonged to one's own, as well as a large star area around it. Countless people were envious, and at the same time, they were eager to join Yi Xian, the master of the Sky River Star, and fight for their future under his leadership. Of course, more people were actually interested in the significance of Yi Xian being the owner of the world's great providence. If they followed him, they were very likely to be lucky enough to survive the great calamity that would suddenly befall them at any time. In fact, even if this was not mentioned, the attraction of the Sky River Star itself was enough to attract countless masters of the starry sky. This planet was the only vital planet in the Graveyard Star area. All the masters of the starry sky who entered the Graveyard Star area to search for treasures and excavate the star core source would settle down on the Sky River Star and travel back and forth. They were definitely rich existences. Now, all the posts on the Sky River Star were empty. Apart from the victorious legion who had entered later to clean up the planet, there was no one alive on the entire planet. The shortage of human resources was too great, and there were all kinds of posts available. This was definitely a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. When Yi Xian flew high up in the sky and returned to the main continent of the Heavenly River where the main residence of the Heavenly River was located, the place was already filled with people. Other than the subordinates of the Victorious Return Army from Victorious Return City, there were also many unfamiliar faces, which caused him to be puzzled. The Sky River Star was already his private planet, so he shouldn't let other masters of the starry sky enter at will. What was going on in front of him? Soon, Naples arrived and explained the situation to Yi Xian. It turned out that while he was in seclusion to concoct the level 18 and level 19 liquids, the 2 camps of the human race and the headquarters of the Wanluo Federation had sent a large number of resources one after another, all of which were on the 3 lists that Yi Xian had listed. Among them was a normal-grade superbrain from the Undying Planet. Now, this normal-class superbrain had been placed in the main control center of the Sky River Star network, deep under the main residence of the Sky River Star. Therefore, the entire Sky River Star network had been restored to normal. Even the star defense system in the atmosphere of the Sky River Star had been successfully reactivated. Activate. At the same time, during this half a day, the large number of Federation fans and starry sky experts who had stayed in the void of the universe outside the Heavenly River planet's atmosphere had also applied for various positions inside and outside the Heavenly River planet. They said that they would work for Star Master Yi, develop together, and bring prosperity to the Heavenly River planet. Push to a wider world. Regarding this matter, Naples didn't dare to make a decision. He said that he would personally decide after Yi Xian came out of seclusion. However, Old Monster Mosquito Butcher slapped the board and nodded in agreement. On the other hand, the so-called think tanks loyal to Yi Xian, who had been tossing and turning in Triumph City, were all jumping up and down. Wave after wave of meetings, they finally decided that this matter was feasible. They chased after Naples and asked him to implement it immediately. In desperation, Naples nodded in agreement. Then he stopped. Immediately, the press conference platform outside Sky River Star's atmosphere changed into the venue of a Starry Sky job fair. The 10,000 or so elites of the Federation that Yixian had released from the bottom of the Black Wind were the group of old monsters in the think tank of Triumph City. All of them volunteered to be examiners for the job. The entire job fair was still in full swing. From any star passage in Sky River Star's atmosphere, one could see the bustling scene in the distant void of the universe when they looked up. As for the lucky ones who were the first to apply for the job, and had their identities verified and registered, they all passed through the star passages in the atmosphere of the Sky River Star and entered the interior of the Sky River Star, rushing to their new posts. According to the opinion of the think tank, after all the posts inside and outside Sky River Star were filled, the star passage in the atmosphere must be opened again, allowing the Starry Sky experts who came to the graveyard domain to enter and settle down here. At the same time, all kinds of transactions could be carried out. Otherwise, if the Heavenly River Star was really treated as a private land and was enclosed, their original strategy would be lost. Yixian agreed with this point. Originally, he didn't have the intention of encircling Sky River Star and not allowing non-subordinate Starry Sky experts to enter. Previously, it was just because the interior of the star was empty, and the situation was special. But now, all the posts would soon be filled with new people, so this problem naturally wouldn't be a problem. Of course, it was impossible to appoint people to all the posts through recruitment. At most, about half of the people appointed were not very important posts. The other important departments still had to be controlled by their own hands. The Victor's Legion under Yixian's command was full of talented people, so there was no problem at all in this regard. There was no need for him to worry at all. Naples could handle it well. At this point, Yixian had 2 private planets in his hands. One was Triumph City in the Death Star region. There were too many kinds of mineral planets there. As long as he was not afraid of the trouble, he could mine whatever materials he wanted. Moreover, the environment was quiet enough that no one would disturb him. Triumph Star would be used as the industrial base of Yixian's power and would continue to be built. In addition to Triumph Star, there was also Sky River Star, which he had just obtained. With the arrival of this normal-class superbrain, the Sky River Star's Starry Sky network resumed its normal operation. Even the Star Defense Array was reactivated. It was believed that in a day or two, when all the posts were filled with staff, the entire Sky River Star would be completely restored to its usual order. Even more so, because its nature was different, it had become Yixian's private territory. Its degree of freedom was higher, and various policies were bound to be changed. The prospects of development were obviously more promising, and the speed of its comprehensive rise would be faster. After understanding the situation, Yixian nodded and didn't say anything else. Although the 10,000 or so members of the think tank that he had released from the Black Wind Scout stronghold and brought back to Triumph City weren't very reliable, they still had their talents. They were proficient in different fields, so it was correct.